On the outskirts of the village of Gale begins history, where everything changes as soon as the child turns 12. According to ancient custom, on the birthday, the priest determines the future of each child, depending on her innate abilities. This time the turn came to a guy named Rock. He just turned 12, and he is predicted by the fate of the tamer of the sacred animals. Friends are delighted. Such a rare profession sounds cool. Amy rejoices. Rock will become a real master of magical animals. But Rock himself does not believe in prophecy. He says priests do not understand anything about it. The guys reassure him. It is important that it is a beautiful legend. Jisak with punishment cheers. Rock will cope. He thanks them. Suddenly, Isak pulls his fist forward. And I become the best gladiator. Everyone dreams in their own way. Amy wants to become the coolest wizard in the world, and believes he can. Enar promises to become a healer capable of cure any wound. Rock ironically calls himself the worst tamper of sacred animals. Although everyone has their own way, the boys rejoice. They are a team, and that is their strength. Rock wants them to always be together. So he decides to support everyone, to help realize their dreams, even if it is difficult. It's been 3 years. It is raining. A man in a raincoat rushes to the building. His steps are difficult but confident. He removes the hood as Rock. He is already 15. He returned, but when approaching the door, he hears a conversation about expelling someone. It was about him. Jacek says Rock never became a real tamper. There is no strong beast. Only carries the cargo and performs small work. Amy tries to remember the past, because they used to do everything together. Now their team has become a S-class, which is admired by everyone. And indeed, can you constantly fight someone who knows nothing? Isaac explains that their team paid attention to a real character, and this is a chance that cannot be lost. If that hero joins them, they will become kings. It will strengthen the team and help fulfill the dream, both your own and their. Amy agrees with sadness in his voice. Rock, hearing all this, loses his mood. The heart breaks from betrayal. Isaac offers the age of the year, to meet tomorrow and go to the dungeon of disappearance together. If he shows himself, we'll remain in the team. While everyone is thinking, Amy lands his head silently. Kara holds the dress in his hands. Someone asks, she will take her with her too? Kara nodded. She will take a dress with her because she does not want to be stolen. And if she has another bag, let no one be offended. Jizak sighed. The conversation ended. The team discussed everything. Jisak has already drawn to the door handle saying that Amy should explain everything in the year and award. Isak came out, but one of the team called him to stop. It was Amy. She wanted to say something, but he silently walked down. And Rock, wet from sweat, froze around the corner, hiding. As Jisak said, Rock has not yet met any sacred beast. How many people who are looking for a lifetime are talented by those who are lucky at once? Although without the beast, he was able to strengthen the characteristics of the equipment of his comrades through the divine gift of support. He did everything. He prepared food, pulled things, covered in battle, spied, negotiated with the local, just the shadow of the team. Now he was sitting on the floor in the hallway, not understanding what to do next. Everything around seemed alien. A smiling blonde came to him. The name of the cat. He honorably joins the dungeon. Rock said Jessica that this is good. The new ally would not hurt. But he crossed his hands and turned away without answering. Meanwhile, the cat turned to the girls with affection. They say that God gave such beauties special gifts. He had the manner, at the level. Pointing his finger, the cat said that Rock, though comfortable in everyday life, should protect things. After all, some of them he will not be able to afford even in his entire life. Rock, smiling, replied that he would take his words back. Amy explained, this is not some of the carriers of things but their friend. When the cat began to pull the bags, he noticed in one of them the same dress that belonged to Brown. Before going on the road, Isak asked to show Kita's weapon. Той без вагань витягнув меч. It was the legendary sword of the killer of the dragons. Gift of the king himself. They say they can really kill a dragon. Its blade is considered almost indefinite. It is extremely difficult to even melt. But Rock noticed a crack on it. The cat became angry, put the sword on the throat of the year and denied it. Jacek intervened. Enough. It's time for everyone to get rid of and act as a team. He asked everyone to be careful. Amy suggested to unite, to pass the dungeon together. The container will be able to cure everyone. It is reliable. Rock and Cat crossed weapons, preparing for battle. In memory, the days when they united as a family. Now the fists were brought together. The power of the team came to life. Let it be good or bad, but they have always been together. Rock dreamed that he could support the rivalry, but felt no longer capable of pulling them. But despite it, he does not forget to support them. After all, the disappearance dungeon is ahead. With a card in your hands, Rock goes slowly forward. Jizak growls, "Move faster!" Thanks to the skill of touching the landscape, Rock knows the location of the monsters and leads the command with a safe route. But the shortest way is not always the best. Jacek screams again, demanding to speed up. Rock wanted to explain why he could not, but he does not want justifications, only speed. He apologizes to Kit, promising to deliver him to the main boss dungeon as soon as possible. The monsters here are much smaller than last time. There is no fear. Even Honda Man can go ahead. The cat was here before when the dungeon for the first time. Then he almost died, accompanying one adventurer. Since then, he has avoided hiking with robbers. Too risky. The year had to fight against giant cockroaches. Only 2 knives, and the lightning reaction saved it. It's time to move on. Jisak is no longer angry. He is in the spring. He does not need feats, just that Rock goes faster. The cat breaks the map out of the hands of Rock and turns to Jizak loudly. He states that Rock is not the shortest route. The girls are surprised. They thought everything is going. Rock tries to explain, but no one listens. Jizak is sure. He just plays with them, revenge on the insults. Rock screams that it's not. But in response, he receives a slap from Amy. She exclaims angrily, "Did he still not understand? They are not for the sake of entertainment?" Rock is shocked. It seems to him that the world has suddenly turned. Previously, he led them through the dungeon, pointed out the best way, avoided traps. Did they believe him? When did it change? But Jisak no longer wants to listen. It requires the shortest way, even if there is a crowd of monsters. Rock has to fight. Monsters are getting bigger. Jizak must focus on enemies. Rock thinks confusedly, when friends stopped being friends. Meanwhile, the team is preparing for battle, and the cat is holding. The punishment does not believe that the year once thought to his childhood. Now he seems worthless to her. And the cat states that he had long had to be expelled from the team. Despite the conflicts, the team of boys reaches a huge gate, a place where the legend hides the boss. The giant entrance unfolds in front of them. Everyone gets open with open mouths. Here he is, the final of the adventure. Rock proposes to rest and remove the burden, but Jizak breaks him again. They say, because of whom they were so delayed. The look is unknown. Amy asks Kita if he realizes that staying in this dungeon is becoming more and more dangerous, and he calls the Rock a fool, or pretends to be. The cat is offended. Does he not hear what intonation he is told with? It's not even a mockery. It is a neglect. The punishment throws his wicked look at him. Jizak turns to the year. They hesitated for a long time when to say, but they could not tolerate it in silence. As soon as they leave the dungeon, the year will be finally expelled from the team. After that, they will go with a cat. The new team is ready. Rock understands everything without words. Obviously, everyone supports this idea. He only remains the fragments of his former friendship. They go to the battle with the boss. Jacek shows that their team is the best. The newly minted team, without a year, squeezes his fists over his heads. Rock silently remembers how he once did the same with them. He is told to look at the punishment. He understands as the last roll he's been given. Meanwhile, the gate to the boss is slowly open. On the other side lies a huge animal, a gray-silver wolf. At first it seems that he is silent and calm. The gray wolf seems to be a simple opponent. Even the E-class will be able to cope. But it is not gray, but silver. Fenrir, the son of Loki from the myths of Scandinavia. Monster of the legendary rank. Even the S-class sealer will not necessarily be able to overcome it in battle. The smartest is not to touch it at all. But Jacek is frustrated. It's just a wolf. He orders Kita to kill him quickly and return to the village. Rock tries to stop them, wants to warn of danger. But no one hears his voice. The team has already rushed. Cat in shock. His sword is broken. Why doesn't he work? The wolf is angry with all his eyes and releases his true strength. Rock and girls froze in anxiety. Their faces are tense, because in front of them, not just a boss, but something much scary. The punishment is covered by panic. With fear in her eyes, she drops to her knees, as if paralyzed in horror in front of the enemy. The cat screams, "Jesus, you need to retreat." Even if he is strong, the sword is broken. It is impossible to fight with Fenrir now. But Jacek does not want to run without a blow. To hit it. How to throw stones uphill. Even in a dream, this wolf is almost invulnerable. Now it's better to escape while there is a chance. Rock takes the punishment by the shoulder and pulls behind. The whole team breaks down the way out, trying to get out. Jasak is angry that they just run away. And Rock, meanwhile, runs ahead of all, leading the way. The cat smiles mysteriously. They say you should not worry. The same roll of year is to be an advanced shield. Suddenly he jumps on the year and injures him. The blow is accurate. The punishment falls to the ground, shocked. The cat strikes a spare royal sword. He says that the rest of the year is now his gift to that world. Does this mean that the cat is a new member of the Jisak team? Rock does not believe the eyes. Everything happened too suddenly to realize. He hopes it is only a nightmare. But Jisak and Cat are already running out of the exit, and Fenrir chases after them. Amy, without looking at, also runs to the exit, leaving a wounded year behind. He remembers how he once dreamed of getting stronger with them. Kara trusted him. And in general, this team existed only through it. Standing on his side, he suddenly feels someone's presence behind his back. It's a wolf. It stands just behind and growls. But for some reason, Rock is not afraid. He does not keep him evil, even now. Instead, indignation is aimed at humans. How cruelly. To leave a friend to die for his own salvation. Rock is not afraid of pain. The pain is no longer scared of him. But suddenly, he hears a voice. Someone says something behind his back. Is it possible? Wolf? Speaks in human language? The wolf's eyes expanded. Does this man understand his language? For some reason. Yes. Perhaps it is one of his abilities as a tamper of monsters. Fenrir asks whether Rock wants to fight. He is bored, and a match is a good opportunity to finally kill a dozer. But the guy does not want to fight. He would be glad if the wolf just let him go. But Fenrir wants to play. He is too bored on this floor. Rock is not delighted with such a game. He gets something from behind. It was a bib of Jasaka. The guy threw him away, just a wolf under his paws. He, not realizing what was happening, grabbed the bib and brought him back to the year. The guy threw him again, as if playing with a dog. Fenrir was embarrassed but ran after him. He does not understand what it is, but he likes. And Rock smiles. It is good that he once learned to look after the dog. Rock reminds, from this level do not get out. The entrance is sealed with a barrier. Even Fenrir will not be able to break it. Sumi touched the guy, but he suddenly proposes Fenrir to go with him on a journey if he can get out of this trap. First, the wolf does not take it seriously. But he really likes the idea. Rock is surprised. Is the legendary monster really like? Yes, Fenrir wants to become a friend. The guy is shocked. He remembers how he read about the profession of tight man. It was about an inner voice. And the fact that after that comes a new stage. And here, it really happens. Rock also wants to be Fenrir's friend. The wolf agrees. From now on, they are friends. Rock fulfilled all the conditions, so it receives access to a mini-garden of monsters. Its creatures can go into the outside world. There are dozens of voices in the boy's head. He is lost. What do these effects mean? After all, very little is known about this profession. But Fenrir just smiles. For the sake of this is worth the risk. He is overwhelmed by a new feeling. Rock feels a rush of power, and decides, it is time to give your new friend a real name. The wolf nods satisfied. His name is Fenrir. Nice to meet you. But something is not in this name. He is annoyed that the guy calls him simply species. Something is too dry. So he asks to invent a new, cool, worthy name. Rock hesitates. Dozens of options are spinning in the head. After all, he offers, maybe you will be called Lucky? The wolf fades, and immediately begins to rejoice. Yes, this is a cool name. Ideally suits. He is truly happy with this name. Suddenly a treasure chest appears. To tame Fenrir is like defeating the boss. Inside, a bracelet and a giant red collar. Lucky will be glowing with joy. Asks Rock, put it faster. The guy puts on the bracelet of a mini-garden of monsters. And again he hears his voice. He can now enter and leave the garden at any time. Rock looks carefully at the bracelet and tries to understand. Is it, and is the same garden? Lucky smiles. Come on, I'll show it. The wolf touches his nose to the bracelet, and his body begins to be absorbed inside. Rock alarmingly follows him, but all is well. The wolf feels great. Moreover, Lucky shines. He invites Rock to join him. The guy closes his eyes and touches the bracelet. In a moment, he finds himself in the garden, just in front of the house under the magic dome. He looks around with delight. The place seems to be created for rest. The eyes are sticking together. Although small, cozy. The temperature is ideal. The weather is as under the order. If you need a storage, you can use this garden as a warehouse. Many magical objects allow you to store things in another dimension, but one that allows you to enter with the families, Rock has not yet seen. Lucky asks, "What will we do next?" Rock thinks that even S-class seekers did not have something like that. It would be cool if he could collect other monsters such as Lucky shone from the idea of gathering brothers. He assured the year, there are others like him who also dream of escape from the dungeon. But first, you need to get out of this level. Rock jumps on his back, and they rush to the edge of the maze rapidly. The guy clung to a thick mane, a crazy jerk in front. Like Fenrir, they overcame a long distance in minutes. It is very close to the barrier and the stairs that lead to the light. Rock asks to turn to the right. It is safer. But Lucky is convinced that the shortest way is just in front of them. However, there are monsters. The guy wants to avoid unnecessary fighting. Lakey understood everything. He is glad that a partner is such as Rock. The wolf listens and turns right. But Rock notices something strange and asks for a moment to stop. It turned out that parts of the monsters were nearby. They can not only be sold, but also used. For example, in the creation of objects, the news of possible delicious food instantly enlightened the lacquer. He would have tried it in love. Now the question is, where to put it all? Rock was able to move parts of the monsters into a mini-garden. Walking on his back lacquer, he realized, to keep the trophies in this way real. Again, jumping on the wolf, the guy suggested, and to try his lacquer. Let him put some monsters in the garden. But the lacquer pressed the paw too hard. The piece was simply crushed. Now he is more careful. He used only the tip of the claw to not damage the material. By touching the part, but still divided it into many tiny debris. It will not work. Rock tries to cheer lacquers. It reminds, the collection of materials is very important. They should not neglect prey. The guy passed again in his eyes. They should be prepared for real problems. And here it is. Ahead. A way out to the stairs. But the path is blocked by a powerful barrier. The obstacle looks extremely strong. Lucky frowns. Do not go further. But even if the adventure was short, it was interesting. Rock stops him. It is too early to give up. Offers, let the wolf hide in a mini-garden. They may then be able to get around the barrier. Lucky goes to the garden without hesitation. They are ready, though not sure that they can go away safely. The barrier is powerful. Rock extends his hand, touches the obstacle in front, and the passage opens. They manage to go through the barrier without any obstacles. They move forward. Lucky returns from a mini-garden smiling calm. They left the dungeon without any delay. As Fenrir looks like, the path is complete. Lucky is grateful for the trip. It was a real adventure for him. Rock is also happy. He extends his fist as a sign of friendship. The varnish is a little ashamed, but carefully lifts the paw to answer. Remembering how inadvertently he damaged the monster's materials, the wolf presses the rock to the fist carefully, then his claw. So Rock tamed Fenrir on the first day of the new year. The new year is a new union. Time goes to the royal capital of Crams. Just in the middle of the street, before the surprised crowd, there is a rock, and behind him is a huge Fenrir. People do not understand what is happening. As it should be expected, the guard of the guards rushes to them. Their task is to protect the guild from the Grey Wolf, which is perceived as a threat. Rock shouts that it's his family's, but no one listens. The guy nervously scratches the nape of the nape. Does not know how to explain the situation. When the voltage reaches the peak, the guild doors dissolve. The administrator, a woman by name, comes to meet River. She greets Rock. He sincerely rejoices in the meeting, but it is surprised. After all, the Rock had to be in the dungeon of the destruction with the team. But her surprise grows into a shock when she sees a wolf. He jokingly says, "What a big dog." Rock smiles. It's not a dog, it's Fenrir, his family's. Is it confused? Is it really the same legendary wolf? The River is happy. He finally became a real Tightman. The guards are stunned, they do not believe their ears. And one of the audience, the man in the hood, suddenly realizes the guy tamed Fenrir on his own. The River with a gesture asks the Rock to go with her. You need to register the families. Lucky rolls around the street in the middle of the street. A whole crowd looks at him. Registration is completed. The River is interested in asking what happened to him. Rock was confused. He was convinced that the rest had already returned. He tells how the cat attacked him with his sword and threw it when they were still in the dungeon. The River is shocked. Well, though the sword was broken, there was no deadly blow. She shared rumors that seemed true. Earlier, when the cat was just beginning to gain popularity, he joined the S-class and went to the Dungeon of Destruction. The mission failed. Only he and another person returned. Since then, a spooky hearing has spread. The cat used comrades as a bait to escape alive. If it really is that cat, it is quite possible. But why did he aim for a year? Probably because he considered him the weakest. Shame on it to talk about it. The river does not understand why he thinks. After all, everyone considered the year the most reliable participant in the school team. But the guy is convinced that everything he did was anyone. He was expelled at the beginning of the mission, just entered the dungeon. The river categorically disagrees. It was thanks to the presence of the year that the team became a S-class. She does not understand how such a terrible misunderstanding arose, so makes the decision. The team will be reduced in rank. This is difficult. Each of them is really high. But the betrayal of a friend is a gross violation of the rules of the guild, and this will not be Potten. In addition, the fact that they have not yet returned from the S-class mission talks about the level of danger. It turns out that they have not yet returned. Amy and others are still with Kit in the dungeon. Realizing this, Rock rapidly runs out of the guild. But the river calls him. If he returns to help the team, he can cause evil again. Maybe it will be. But Rock remembers his friends. He does not want betray or revenge. He only wants to return them. Things. The river understands everything. She escorts him with a sad look. Rock rushes forward and suddenly hears the voice calling him. This is a lacquer that was still in the middle of the street, and joyful kids sat on it. Rock a gesture calls him with him. But the lacquer's worn. Those people can betray him again. Rock understands it. That is why it will be the last time when it extends their help. They met. In these eyes there is a mutual trust, but also a shadow of farewell. Rock made a decision, and Loki respects him. He helped the children get off their backs, and they had fun to leave the city. The guy jumped on the back of the wolf, and they raced the arrow towards the sand dunes. Return to the Dungeon of Destruction. The cat explodes with anger. It is a team for the fact that they cannot remember where they came from. Jisak reminds him. The cat himself also does not remember the way back. Previously, Rock helped Rock. Amy sighs with sadness. The cat ironically recalls that it was an elite S-class team. And they are moving as if for the first time here. They descended here from the 10th floor. Kit B. It is better to stop the thread. Even the sword keeps wrong. And he boasted of his feats. They chose a different route, allegedly shorter, but a wave behind a wave. Monsters attack without end. The cat believed that it would be easier, but he feels, the further, the stronger the creatures. The battle at this level ended. The detachment is exhausted. It's time to rest a little. Soon they will go down to the 4th floor. Maybe there will be weaker. All you have to do is stand a little more. Jisak is interested in what condition the spare sword of Kita is in. But he would look better at his own. He used constantly. And yet, the sword is in excellent condition. He bought it in a regular store, but he never rusted, had no scratch. Good weapon. The cat requires the girls to show their staff. Taking them in his hands, he does not understand. How is it possible? And again, he begins to offend the detachment, not understanding how he generally agreed to work with them. He then states that they survive all this time only through divine protection, not even knowing it. He is convinced that in 3 years it is impossible to reach the rank of S. Isaac asks, what does he mean by divine protection? After all, they went on their own. Their rank is the result of hard work, not some magic. But the cat explains. Divine protection only acts in the presence of the carrier of this force. It protects the weapon from wear and tear and enhances the abilities of the allies. It turns out that all this time the detachment was under his protection. But no one even thanked the one who supported them. In other words, without this force, they would be at the level of C-class. Jisak does not believe that all their strength is only through divine protection. His pride does not accept it. He remembers youth. Then they trained together, and the Rock always praised. They say he studied quickly, and Jisak should try the same. His fist shrinks. In his soul boils anger for a year. Jisak refuses to admit that their success is the merit of someone else. The cat notices that something is wrong with Isak. Asks in the punishment how many more times it can apply amazing. One spell. Kara says, there is only 1 or 2 use per team member. Amy can keep the manu for battle. It copes well. But while they said, new monsters are already coming to their direction. To get to the 4th floor, you will have to go past 5 orange ants. But they will definitely call for help, so a direct attack is suicide. The cat asks the punishment to heal everyone at least once. Jisak will be the first, the magicians, immediately after him. Then a healer. The cat will cover from the rear. The team agrees with this construction. They start the attack. The look is directed only forward. Not to look. You need to break. But the cat suddenly sneaks to the punishment from behind and wounds it with a sword. Smiles. Thank you for healing. Now they don't need it anymore. The cat is satisfied. The punishment will be a bait that can make the rest. Get out. He throws her, running on the team. And the punishment remains one. Army of orange ants thickens around it. Destroying the flames, 4th floor. The cat just betrayed his comrades. He is justified, they say, otherwise. It was the only chance to survive. They should not worry. No one knows. While they are in the dungeons, others automatically become complicit. The full-time servant gave them a great advantage. The fact that they left her is the best proof of who they really are. The cats scornfully murmur, how did he generally agree to collect a team from these pathetic losers? Collaboration is impossible further. Jusak hints, the cat is not as strong as it exhibits itself. The boys continue the fight with ants, but the strikes of Jasaka do not harm them. The monsters of the 4th floor should be weaker. These are blue ants. They were easily overcome. All because then divine support operated. But no one thanked. Without it, they are only a C-class. Jasaka attacks several monsters at once. But suddenly Fenrir appears and saves him from a blow. The wolf, and on his back sits Rock. Jizak does not believe in his own eyes. He didn't have to survive, and Rock proudly states that he returned. The cat is annoyed. What now? Rock and Fenrir will destroy all ants. But in this dungeon, no one knows who destroyed anyone. Amy, ignoring Kita, turns to the ear, asks to save Karatera. Is she still on the 5th floor? They left her to die. And now, after betrayal, they also ask for help? It's an absurdity. The cat justifies the victim was necessary. Obviously, they are still not aware of their actions. Rock strokes the lacquers on the head and goes. They no longer need to believe the words, only actions. This wolf is very sensitive. He doesn't like something. The unpleasant smell comes from the Karin dress in a backpack. It is her handbag. Laki shudders from this smell. Rock goes silently, leaving the command behind. Together they are cut through flocks of ants and reach the 5th floor. There is no more indentation, but the ants here are more than it seems. The smell of blood removes them from the nests. Even for Fenrir it's too much, but Rock does not hesitate. It rushes into battle without waiting. Next to the lacquer, he feels invincible. Fear disappears. They defeated all the ants. No one escaped. During the battle, Rock performed a few tricks that were sincerely impressed. Lake. For the first time he saw the guy fighting. This is a real team. Sturdy, coordinated, what it should be from the beginning. Now you have to find a card. Laki sniffed the air and indicated in which direction it was. Punishment. She was lying among the defeated monsters. Rock immediately noticed her, without movement, in the shadow. But he knew it was her. In memory, she came to a moment when she shared a recipe for recovery potions with him. It was incredible. He helped her. It was a difficult job, but it was thanks to him that the potion succeeded. Rock regrets that he did not have time. But it was the punishment that gave him the knowledge that saved her life now. He gave her a potion. She drank it. He gently pressed her to him, whispering that he should now be grateful. It is to her. Kara said something quiet, long sound. She opened her eyes, alive. She apologized to the year that left him then. But do not change the past. It didn't matter for Rock. But they were waiting for them a new problem. It is a blade of hell. The legendary Fenrir monster, whose meeting is inevitable. They will have to face him. The Kara looked at the lacquer and whispered, "That's the same." Then she lost consciousness. Rock sat near and just silently was side by side. It's time to go back to the city. Rock asked Laki to ask him to allow him to put punishment on his back. Laki sighed heavily, but agreed. Only this time, after all, his back, only for... The guy did not expect that the wolf would say something so gentle. But he did not have time to get rid of. The enemy appeared ahead. They were in front of the entrance to the nest of orange ants. Looking inside, the lacquer saw the eggs, and immediately rushed there, hoping that they were delicious. He ran to the nest without even a year. When he ran to the eggs, the saliva rolled. Rock suggested that these were orange eggs, but one of them was different. It seems that others were destroyed from the inside. Someone's intervention? And here everything became clear. The eggs began to crack, from which ants appeared. They hatched right in front of them. Rock was preparing for battle, but instead of attack, ants hugging a year, perceiving it for father. The guy sits stunned among newborn ants and the lucky jokes. Apparently, Rock lingered here because he knew that the girls were already waiting for. Little ants look friendly. They want, become friends. A voice is heard again in the head of Rock. Recently they fought with the same ants, but somehow it will be unfair to just leave them here. Rock agrees. Now these little ants are his new families. Some of them even started to resemble people a little. It is time to move them to a mini garden. Rock asks Loki to look after the punishment until he is in a mini garden of monsters. As he made friends with 6 new monsters, the system offers a garden upgrade, 6 new features to improve. He did not expect that the garden would change again. A pleasant surprise. Rock decided to improve the river, pond, hut, and fruit tree. Reflecting aloud, chooses functions and suggests that if the space is expanded, the beds will become larger. He pressed the function of fruit tree. The space began to expand simply in the eyes. The place has really become larger. Near the stump, he noticed that the ants were busy. Near the hut, the ants carefully folded parts of the monsters just on the stump. Rock came closer, watching what they were busy. It turned out, sort the materials obtained in battle. He was amazed. He did not expect that ants were capable of such. It was their special skill. One of the ants asked to call her a good girl. He did it, though he knew. Not a real father. He stroked her on his head. He realized that being dad for someone is not so bad, especially when this ant is the only tiara. But now it's not time to relax. Rock said goodbye, waved his hand. He believed that these creatures would not fail. He left the mini garden of the monsters and returned to reality. Loki worried. Something happened. Rock thinks of punishment right away. All the eggs hatched. Loki is upset. I didn't have time to try at least one thing. And a little offended. Rock apologizes. He promised to treat him with something delicious after all. From these words, the wolf seemed to be a little cheerful. Everything will be fine. The capital of the kingdom. In front of the guild building is a familiar place, but it is anxious. Rock raises the punishment. Asks in the lacquer a little. He goes forward. Enters the guild. Inside is a quarrel. Someone tries to expel someone. The cat shouts that he is nothing. This applies only to their teams, friends. The boys argue before the guild administrator. But only one thing said. Rock asks them to wait for his return. Rock carefully planted the punishment and asks, "What happened?" Everyone is silent, tense. Cat and Isaac deny everything that Rock said. The cat seems to be smiling, they say, glad to see the year. He says that guild has made strange charges, and asks the year to explain everything. But Rock does not understand what to explain. What did they not cope on the 4th floor? What did the cat use the punishment as a bait, leaving it on the 5th? It is hardly that the cat hoped to hear. It begins to pour cold sweat. Rock mentioned another moment, when the cat hit him during Fenrir's escape. But then Isaac unexpectedly stood in his defense. The cat tries to reassure the situation. Like, the fact that Rock was kicked out of the S-Class team does not yet give him the right to invent accusations. He is convinced that Rock will not prove anything. The cat is lying with the confidence of a professional, and without proof to blame someone just wrong. The cat sincerely considers himself a hero, and says he will tell everything. King himself. Smiling ominously, he returns to the year, but Rock asks a second. He approaches Kita and suddenly breaks into a broken sword, showing everyone present. He applies the blade to his breast armor, in the place where the wound was pierced. The blow is perfect with damage to the armor. The cat did not expect it. In response, Cat states that Rock wounded himself to invent a story. Then he looks at Jasaka, looking for support, but Jizak is silent, and this is even more angry with Kita. Rock points to punishment. Asks, does the cat go to say something about her condition? But here Amy, seeing a girlfriend, reacts the first. She shouts her name, crawls to her, apologizes. He says everything happened only because she did not help. The punishment is her girlfriend. And even if it is late, Amy regrets that she has left her. Rock looks at them sad. Cat laughs and states that her condition is a consequence of her own weakness, like they are here to nothing. But someone suddenly interrupts him. Did the cat not hit her in her back? Now he wants evidence? He thinks the punishment has already died and will not be able to say anything? Rock with a tired face leans up to the punishment and tries to wake it up. Asks, is he the one who wanted to send her to another world? Because he knows that she sleeps. The punishment is muttering. She is cool. Amy stands with tears in his eyes and hears everything. Rock touches her shoulder again, trying to wake up, but she shudders. Kara opens his eyes and cheerfully tells everyone, good morning. Amy happily rushes to hug her, but it hugs too much. Rock carefully breeds them, asks the punishment to look at Kita. Anger appears on her face. How he dared to hit it and use it as a bait. She begins to offend him for everything he did. And after all this, the cat still calls himself a hero? Men from the guild turn to him. Such methods are unacceptable even for a warrior. The testimony of members of the guild, strict and unambiguous. The accusations are serious. The attack on allies, betrayal, attempt to destroy, failure to fulfill the diver, and most importantly, violation of the adventurer rules. At least, he should be deprived of the title of hero. For this, Rock thanked the river for his cooperation when suddenly someone called him. It was Jizak. He clenched his fists and dropped on his knees before the year. He pleads guilty. He says he had no choice and supported Kita. He asks to explain to others because he still wants to stay in S-class. Rock guesses Isak knew about Kita's plans, but Jizak manifested nothing. After the cat released the rock, he turned to Jizak. They say, now he is part of the team. It turns out that Jizak was trying to remove the rock from the road all this time. Isak denies all the charges. He says he will not allow himself to speak in such a tone. He seemed to always take care. He believes that it was thanks to him that Rock reached the level of S. But at this point, the administrator of the guild interferes. She explains that only thanks to the year, their team has reached this level. Only Mr. Rock really has the ability to level S and Jizak a maximum of C-class, or even lower at best. Even if Rock had collected a team from E-class, the result would be the same. But Jizak perceives it as a blow. He does not believe that they are in class. He thinks that the administrator is simply inventing. But unfortunately, this is true. Then Isak proposes to solve everything with battle. If Rock wins, it will take a decrease. If he wins himself, everyone will forget about the incident. Rock doubts this idea. He has not joined anyone for a long time, but the river supports it. It is worth trying. This is the official request of the guild. He needs to create a temporary team with one of the ranked adventurers and show his abilities. In addition, they promise a reward. This will be the first guild task of Rock after the start of his solo. The temporary team is not scary. The team will include Jizak, Amy, and Punish. They will challenge. But the cat, for suspicion, will not be able to participate. The cat smiled smugly. Several years have passed, and in his opinion, no evidence has remained. But suddenly a man came out of the crowd ready to testify. He removed the hood. The cat seems to be recognized. It was a member of the rank A, known as the Black Lisa. The cat manages that he doesn't know about. Event. But the man continues. It was in the dungeon of disappearance. His friends also believed Kit. He tried to help, but in the city no one listened to him. Because the words of the nameless seeker. Nothing against the hero with influential connections. He regrets that he did not do any more. But now, Aikita will not help. There is evidence. The cat stands as if nothing happened. He is indifferent, calls everyone around fake, and even if it is reduced to C or S dash, it doesn't care. He grabs the sword and rushes to the guild. He knows that he will be grabbed, and still does not escape. Rock tries to stop it, screams so that he does not make worse. But the cat closes his mouth and offends, says that such as he, they have no right to say something. Then the cat rushes with the sword on Amy. It takes it hostages. Rock, crying, asks him to stop. You can still turn back. Amy, stumbling on words, also begs him to be ashamed. But the cat does not hear. He says he no longer wants to be part of it. Rock continues to persuade. Let go of Amy. There is still a chance. But the cat does not change the position. The crowd is going out, opening the road to exit. The cat, holding Amy, steps to the door. He says goodbye. Be careful, otherwise you will become a dinner for monsters. Without releasing it, it disappears on the edge of the square. All shocked. No one understands how it all happened. Rock immediately moves after a kit. But when he gets the square, he sees Lucky sits near the bound kettle, satisfied with his tale. Amy sits side by side, kneeling, bowing her head. It turns out that the lacquers tensed a little, and still was able to neutralize it. Lucky was convinced that the cat would not explode from his watch. He was really dangerous. Rock, full of joy, thanks Lucky. Thanks to him, Kita was carefully immobilized. The guards approached and twisted Kita to take custody. Rock thanked Lucky again, now as a real rescuer. He gathered things and returned to the guild to complete everything. Amy bowed before the year, betraying everything that happened. Rock was surprised. He didn't expect it. It hurts that everything went so far and asks, just stop. Jacek, disappointed, holds his head. He knows. There will be no joint team. And yet, having no other way out, he returns the year to the group, hoping that he will relieve. But Rock remains gloomy. With fatigue in his voice, he announces, There will be no longer in one team with these guys. This decision is angry with Yasaka. The punishment is coming to the year. He says he is one who knows the true bitterness of betrayal. Carefully hugs him and offers to become her partner. Rock looks at her. How can you say it at all? You also left me. He does not want to be in a team with those who betrayed. The punishment is surprised. She disagrees. Points his finger on Yasaka. He brought in the command of Rot. Yasaka was indignant. After all, the punishment earlier said that Rock was worthless. She confesses, she said, but did not mean. Rock is tired of their disputes. Punishment and Jizak begin to pull each other for their cheeks. But Amy intervenes. She asks if they all realized what was happening in the dungeon. Rock helped the most, but no one wanted to admit it. She admits shyly, it was their fault. Jizak and Kara are forced to agree. It is at this point that the guys approach the guild administrator. It interrupts an awkward pause. It's time to start the test. Rock apologizes for the delay. The river is suitable with a list of tasks in the hands. It proposes to repeat all the conditions again. You need to clarify a few details. Their call will start with the test at sea. Jizak is shining. Does not understand why the task of such a low level. He thinks that the administrator underestimates them. They are S-class. But when Rock looks at the list, it is amazed. The list of tasks included images with descriptions. To collect the eggs of rainbow stracosis orange, the scales and claws of Vinron or fresh green emeralds, and all this should be obtained in a week. At first glance, the task is simple, but Rock suspects the trick. Jizak laughs, they say. Rock was scared and wants to give up. The document clearly states, to prove the advantage of force. When Jizak read to the end, he shouted to the administrator, demanding explanations. The river smiled. If you are S-level, then why are you afraid of this task? Jizak with annoyance with his teeth, and Rock remained calm. Everything became clear. The guild has full access to data, both about the allergy of the Carta orange and the fear of Amy before demonic insects, even that the green frog paralyzes them with horror. It seems to be a warning from the guild. It will not tolerate violations of the rules. Jizak grunts, but he agrees to complete the task. The river is looking forward to the results, and the Trinity, swearing, leaves the hall. Meanwhile, the river asks the Rock to get acquainted with the E-level adventurer. Rock says Loki is delayed and let him rest a little. The administrator asks if there is something that Rock cannot tolerate. He thought a little, and he replied that he did not tolerate betrayal, and does not like those who do not obey orders, because it is responsible for the lives of others. He is not sure if this is a normal situation, but it seems that this administrator has more authority than it seems. And she is not accidental, because the river is not just a smiling girl on the reception. She has been an administrator for 3 years, and is able to keep everything under control. She has almost not changed over these years. All is charming though, as she says, he is far from young. Rock begins to be nervous. The whole back is wet. He is disturbed. Who is this mysterious E-level adventurer? The river confesses that the situation is unusual, but she believes that this girl will not betray or rebel. Even with this doubt, they agree to meet on a training ground, where Rock will be able to see it in action. The door dissolved, and Rock saw the girl's silhouette with his sword in his hands. He looked at her wide-open eyes. Before him was a modest girl with a long braid and a glitter in his eyes. The river introduced it. Shannon, Elphia. And Rock froze with surprise. E-level adventurer. And she is an elf? His gaze fell on a slave collar on her neck. The river explained, Shannon was accepted to the guild because she is a slave and a fighter at the same time. The administrator regretted that all 5 previous owners Shannon were killed in mysterious circumstances, and this was stunned by the year. Cases looked like accidents. 2 died naturally. 1 died from pressure. The other broke out of the break. Another killed the demon. And all this happened over time. The former owner was dealing with guild, and now Shannon herself is a member. Rock thought that he could not blame just a failure of all these deaths. But suddenly, Shannon called herself a dark harvest. She does not seek death. But if something does not suit, Rock can give up this task. Even so, it is only a temporary mission. But he is not by himself. Shannon looks at him strictly. Suddenly, she lifts the sword to his throat and says that the weak have no right to contact her. Rock does not retreat and asks what will happen if someone does otherwise. This ignites the anger of Shannon. She asks if he really wants to die. It turns out that Shannon agreed to become a slave because she lost the meaning of life. But Rock should not be part of this despair. She burst into tears. She no longer wants to see how someone else dies. Rock is confused. The river looks sadly at Shannon. He asks if she can accept what he will be stronger. He reaches his sword. He cannot leave such a good girl alone. Shannon looks at him with tears, but suddenly angry makes him silence. They stand opposite face. Rock does not retreat, and Shannon squeezes the sword in his hand, preparing for battle. She comes, wants to make him understand. Her attack is fast, but Rock has time to dodge. He parts strokes. The elfish clearly has a natural speed and has honed the technique for years. Unexpectedly for Shannon, Rock knocks a sword out of her hands. Her movements, though accurate but predictable. She falls on her knees, but anger prevails. She rushes at him without weapons and knocks the sword out of his hands. She does not want to admit defeat. Rock has time to notice that it has a good combat base, but the technique is not ideal. He grabs her hand, throws it through, and puts on the ground. Shannon twisted in pain, and Rock asked if they had already finished. But she did not agree. The defeat meant death, and he was not going to die for anything. Squeezing, she said that everyone promised to survive but still went to another world. Therefore, it cannot afford to lose, because life no longer makes sense. Rock did not want to continue. His gaze became serious. He just wanted to show her the reason why he could not die. Shannon rounded the eyes of tears. Rock asked not to be frightened of what he saw. A silver wolf appeared next to him. A huge Fenrir put it in front of the Elfian. She expanded her eyes and opened her mouth with surprise. The flying bird suddenly fell near her, just on her knees. The lacquer proudly squeezed, tearing the muzzle up. Shannon did not believe her eyes. It looked like a joke. Fenrir was someone's family's? Rock thanked Loki and stroked him. Shannon could not believe that this guy had tamed the legendary Fenrir. She turned when he heard a familiar voice. Someone asked her to wait. It was a boy. Shannon knew him. He followed her again, and she stroked him on her head. She laughed. This is her younger brother, a Set, for 5 years smaller. They grew up in the elven family and believed that life would be calm, but suddenly the Set disappeared into the forest. Shannon remained at home with her parents. Dad and others went to look for a Set, and she had to keep the house. But even despite the orders, thoughts were only about a younger brother who was lost somewhere. She couldn't sit out of business. She ran into the woods, called Seth, hoping to find him. But he was not there. Following the trail, she reached a spooky maze. Before her stood a Mage. Shannon scolded and began to look back. This forest where they played was once a place of friendship between human magicians and elves. He was called the Forest of Vows. It was in this forest that a Manga mansion stood, a place where they were allowed to go only to the chosen one. Hundreds of years have passed, and the buildings seem to change. Shannon did not believe that time did not leave any crack. If the Set is not in the forest, then it is there. She determined the door strongly. Silence prevailed inside. Everything looked abandoned, but no dust. Shannon tried to understand what it was for a place. Moving on, she called her brother loudly. Without stopping, she climbed to the second floor and went to the next room. Opening the door, she saw the platform in the middle of the hall on which the boy lay. His eyes were closed. Looking at, she recognized Seth and rushed to him. The pulse is fast, breathing is fragrant. It must be taken urgently home. Next to the platform, on the background of bookshelves, the girl noticed something strange. Having froze with horror, she stared in a black circle with her eye in the middle. Suddenly the door knocked on the door. Shannon turned sharply. Throwing her brother on her back, she rushed to the door, but they did not open. And here the voice came. Who will remain? She did not understand. Who should choose? From the fright, she fell to the floor, covering his Seth, and repeated his name in a trembling voice. She had to save him. The black mass with the eye began to penetrate into her breasts. The girl bent out of pain, and then everything was cut off. She woke up in her own bed. The Set was at home, smiling as if nothing happened. I would like to believe that it was only a nightmare, but after that case, strange things began to happen. The creatures around her began to disappear, as if dissolving in another dimension. There were more and more such cases. The whole family gathered. Everyone was upset because the horse disappeared suddenly. Shannon told everything, but she was not believed. They thought that she invented everything. But the Elfian knew. If she did nothing, the family is in danger. And she escaped from the village without a word. But outside the village, she was waiting for a cruel life, and over time she was in slavery. She became a slave not of her own free will. Once a man told her that the best way is the path of knowledge and study of the world. It was her first master, kind and gentle. He taught her to count money, opened her eyes to a real life. But half a year he just disappeared as if he had dissolved. He was gone. She did not want to believe that it was somehow related to her. But in 3 months, the disease took the second. The third died, breaking from the cliff. The fourth housewife drank the poison while sitting at the desk. Fifth killed the monster. Everyone who was near her died. Then she was called the Tin. Condemned and lonely, she sat behind the lattice, repeating, "No one should die anymore." It was then that she came from the guild. She dreamed of getting to prison in order not to harm others. But the guild had other plans. The river visited her in the chamber and offered to become an E-level ally. Shannon did not respond. She deliberately told everyone her story to give up her. Sometimes there were enough words. Sometimes they had to use force. She did not want her to be associated with curse and death. So the days passed until the man appeared. It was Rock. On the first day, she also tried to refuse him. But he took her seriously, unlike others. She knew that he was expelled from S-class, but it did not diminish his strength or kindness. And when they fought, she began to think. She remembered how she shouted at him, why he didn't understand what to get out of this world. But instead of answers, he showed her the reason why he was not going to disappear. Fenrir appeared with a glow, a silver wolf, a formidable and majestic. The wolf lifted his head up, and Shannon, standing on his side, could not believe her eyes. She was accused of death, called a tin. She thought the best was to die. But that desire was only a shadow of oppressed feelings. She whispered in tears, she still wants to live, here in the city. Perhaps Rock is the kind of person you can rely on. She tried to say something, but did not have time, fell to the ground. Rock rushed to her with anxiety in her eyes. Rock ran to her and put her carefully. The river reassured. All is well, it's just a shock and a strong exhaustion. Her gaze became lighter, as if a heavy stone was removed from the heart. The river supported Shannon and led her to rest. Rock, smiling, escaped them. The Lakey quietly gazed behind. The dog looked with sadness. Barking on the Elfian was not a good idea. But Rock reassured him, all was gone well. And here the lacquer paid attention to the bird that was still lying on the ground. What Rock will do with her? While the bird lost consciousness, but soon came out. Yes, everything really was. The bird from the sky wanted to become a friend of the year. He was surprised, but he agreed. New friends would never interfere. The bird settled in the garden, and Rock smiled mentally. They are getting more and more. Lockie wondered what the taste of a new friend. Rock strictly forbade him to try his friends. Shannon returned suddenly, holding her hand and looking into the floor. Rock approached her, asked how she was feeling. She kneeled and apologized. But Rock did not keep evil. He knew that she was working on people. The Elfian confessed that she has little experience, but she sincerely wants to join him. Rock smiled. He is glad to get acquainted with Shannon. He reached out a fist, a friendly gesture. She answered her fist with a slight smile. Lackey pulled his paw and said that I was also glad. But Rock recalled how the dog once destroyed the monster's materials. Then he thought that lacquers would destroy a new acquaintance. But Shannon, hugging a huge paw, just laughed. All is well. The wolf reminded that it evolves. The Elfian is delighted, and Rock scratched his back. His distrust was superfluous, but the lacquer was alert. Touching Shannon, he felt a strong curse. It's not a joke. The curse absorbs the vitality of all around. And in the end, it will kill the carrier itself, Shannon. Rock finally realized everything she told is true. He was engulfed by anger. But it is determined. This power can be broken. It's too thin work. Even Fenrir will not be able to help. But Lockie is sure that Rock will handle. Although he hung, in such he is not a master. Asking permission, Lockie gently grabbed his head in the mouth. Rock froze in shock. What is this wolf trying to do? And here it happened. Knowledge of how to break the curse just filled his mind. Lockie released, and Rock stood, wet from saliva, but with a new gift. He thought it was not a divine protection, but something even. He did not suspect that Lockie was capable of this. But suddenly they were interrupted. The head of the guild appeared in front of them, and an administrator with a sad look stood nearby. The head cannot allow the year to remove this curse. Rock in astonishment. Why? Titus explained. Shannon is a slave, and therefore belongs to the guild. According to their rules, amateurs have no right to interfere with the curse of the guild workers. But Rock explodes. There is no time on chats. It is necessary to act immediately. Titus looks strictly. Emotions are not the path of year. It should not become like an Iser. Rock sighs. Yes, it was too much. He is exhausted, but still looking for a way out. And what about if Shannon is no longer a guild employee? If you redeem it, the curse will no longer be their hassle. The head of the guild first wanted to give him time to cool, but realized It is better to go to the substance. Rock concluded. You need to buy Shannon. Only in this way will he get the right to remove the curse without violations. He does not know how to properly buy. Titus smiled and decided to ask, and how does Rock understand the value of the guild? Rock replied, she was needed to help adventurers to live. Titus agreed, but had something else in mind. Titus believes that the guild exists not just for adventures, it should give happiness. Rock did not understand immediately. But Titus explained that this is why the betrayal of Isaac and others is unacceptable. In another situation, they would be expelled forever. But it would not change anything. He wants to give them a chance. They may be able to look at themselves in a new way, and they once sincerely thank the year, how to help them go through all this. Titus only wishes them happiness. He looked at Shannon. Her life was not easy, but she is good and caring. In this, it is similar to the year. Both donated many, and perhaps that is why they will be able to become perfect partners. He does not force them, but it will be glad if Rock helps the girl, and Shannon will support the boy. The eyes of the Rock were rounded. He did not expect someone to understand him so well. It turns out that there are still those who really care about him. Smiling, he turned to Shannon. He asked what she wanted, but she was snapped. She is a slave, has no right to such decisions. But if Rock and all others are not injured, she would like to go with them. Rock smiled even wider. He promised to take care of Shannon. He asked the river about the price of redemption. She replied that this is a strange coincidence. The amount is the reward for the current task. Rock laughed. First of all, you need to break the curse. Shannon sat on the ground. Rock approached her and reached out. Lakey, Titus, and River were observed nearby. Rock warned that he was beginning. The girl closed her eyes. He imposed a spell. The dark substance escaped from the Shannon body. Rock didn't understand what it was. Something came out of the darkness. It grabbed his hand. This creature tried to curse a year. He hurried to activate the protective spell. But it was not so easy. Finally, the curse was scattered. Rock sighed lightly. Lucky jumped happily. The master coped. Rock glowed with joy. He thanked Lucky. Everything was due to him. The head of the guild also praised the guy. It was incredible. Megan's curse was considered one of the worst. It was created by the founder of the ancient magic school, and even Titus had only fragmentary information about him. There are only a few similar cases in the world. It was rumored that the world was ruled by magic, capable of calling for magic itself. Rock asked to be reported in advance, otherwise his heart would not withstand. Shannon sincerely thanked the year. She was looking forward to working together. Rock smiled. It seemed that all things were completed. It remains not to give Isaac and his comrades to win. Titus advised to collect all the necessary materials. A new adventure ahead, but the year was not frightened. The trio went to the Garden of Mini-Monsters to start training. Shannon asked where this garden was. Rock pointed to the bracelet on his wrist. The whole garden was inside it. The girl was scared. She did not know that such a thing was possible. It was a fun and unexpected solution. Shannon's gaze stopped at the heavenly bird that circled under the dome. Rock became friends with him earlier. She was surprised to mention that heavenly birds are extremely rare creatures capable of flying to the sky. Such creatures are a rare scene even in the magical world. And so with Fenrir. Shannon quietly said that Rock is a very unusual person. He just thought that she apparently considers him a little normal. Lucky splashed to the ground and groaned. He was hungry. Rock too. I wanted to cook something. You could ask for meat and orange ants, but they disappeared. Then Loki reported that the ants built a dungeon directly under the hut. Rock was shocked. They came to the house and saw a giant pit with ladders leading down. A girl looked out of the hole. She exclaimed that Daddy returned home. Shannon asked if ants were able to take on human shape. And why is it called Dad? She doubted that it was an ordinary orange ant. Loki intervened. He hinted that in the year weakness to such things. Rock tried to explain everything. He just found himself near when their eggs occurred, when they hatched. Shannon could keep a secret, but the case was not about it. Loki just smiled eagerly. Rock and Lackey quarreled again. Shannon watched them with surprise. It seemed unfair that those two carelessly chatted, leaving her aside. She was wondering what Loki wanted to say so important. Rock was surprised. Shannon does not understand Loki's language, but understands the orange ant. The guy grabbed his head. What does it mean? It turns out that an ant can talk to people. It is different from others. She was destined to become the head of the colony, so she speaks the language of other races and is able to negotiate. This ability is called Interrayan language. Patra decided to pass it on Shannon, copying the language template. But will it work? Success! The Elfian began to understand lacquers. Rock was shot down from the Panthelic. How is it possible? Shannon thanked the Patri. There is still so much unknown in the world. Rock believed that only he could talk to her, and it turned out, it is special. This was confronted with him. Ants deserve names. He offered the first, Patra, but she glowed with joy. She liked her name, and she gladly suggested to give names to others. All orange ants looked at the rock with expectation, but they all looked the same for him. Patra denied. They have differences, simply not external. Rock was confused, so he jokingly called them Orange A, B, C, D, and another D. The ants were jumped by joy. They liked the news. Watching them, Rock realized that each ant has his own character. When he knows them better, he comes up with unique names. In the meantime, he asked the pattern to show the dungeon. She made a tour. There was a cold meat room, a dryer, and also a composition of a demonic stones found in a writ. Rock was amazed. He did not believe that ants could build it in such a short time. They are just incredible. The place was reminiscent of Patra's nest, and there was meat. It's time to cook. Patra eagerly agreed, and even offered ice cream. Rock and Shannon returned to the guild. The guy was looking for grill, frying pans, knives, and seasonings. Gathering everything he needed, he remembered that they were not too many kitchenware. Shannon wondered what name he would give her. There was little time, so Rock decided to cook fried chicken, quickly and delicious. Simple recipe. Season the meat, fry, and also serve with cabbage. The Elfian was already looking forward to this masterpiece. Rock approached the seller to find out if there is cabbage. The man smiled and replied that the cabbage had not been imported for a long time. Unfortunately, it will not be in the near future. The boys were a little upset. They imagined this perfect chicken and cabbage duo. But suddenly someone turned to the ear. Is he convinced that he can afford entertainment? Rock turned. A familiar team of friends stood in front of him. He did not immediately realize what was happening. One of them repeated the question. Can Rock really have fun now? He then added that if Rock knees in front of the Eisen, he willingly will take him back to the command. Rock stared at them in surprise. Shannon became between them, covering the rock with her hand. She did not understand what the question was about. Isaac looked at her in surprise. He had no idea who she was. Rock asked Shannon not to interfere. From that moment, nothing remained between him and Eisen. He no longer wants to do things with him. But Isaac, smiling, suddenly swung on Shannon. At the same moment, Rock intercepted him. Fist right in front of her face. Isaac is raging. He makes fun of the year. They say Guild clearly thought something. They specifically selected him a strong partner. But this girl looks like nothing. He disrespectfully says that Shannon is just a junk, and it is even impossible to work with it. Shannon does not stand, requires the Isaac to take his words. She is outraged because Rock is not a thing. Isaac behaves like a real crazy without picking words. It provokes it even more, calling the E-level a dog that weakens from every bark. It ignites it well. He is interrupted by Clara. She is wondering if this elfish is now a new partner of Rock. Rock calmly confirmed. Yes, she is his new partner, the Elfean with the rank of E. Clara was a little surprised and came closer to Shannon, looking. Clara looked at Shannon and cautiously hinted that, they say, her clothes were a terrible taste. She added that if Shannon is now on the year with the year, it would be worth at least a little to watch the appearance. Rock cut off Clara. It's not her business. Her dresses do not affect strength. He is tired of this attitude. Clara could not imagine that Rock would choose a partner with Erang, although he may have made the right choice. Amy approached Shannon. She was sorry that her comrades were so rude. She introduced herself to the elves and turned to the year. Opening, Amy confessed. The apology is not enough, but she still sincerely asks to forgive them all that they did. She also said she thought Rock had already left the path of the adventure, but now he wants to fight him last, to evaluate his strength and decide what to do next. Rock understood everything. They exchanged smiles. Isaac was eagerly called by Amy. She wished them good luck. She would definitely need them. The detachment went. Shannon was worried. Should they go? But Rock reassured her. He is sure they have no right to lose. Shannon looked at him with trust. It's time to come back. In the garden, they met the guilty look of the lacquer. His muzzle was all covered with sand. Rock was preparing food. He managed to turn the lacquer from the flour, but he did not bush. He really wanted to help. Lackey sneezed. Everyone around the flour was covered with a cloud. Everyone laughed. Meanwhile, Rock has already completed the cooking. A delicious fried chicken was flavored on the table. Everyone thanked him for such goodies. Friends were happy to take food. The chicken was really incredible. Laki and Patra praised the year. Delicious. He warned that the food was hot. Eat carefully. Shannon, though slowly, could not hold back smiles. She really liked it. After lunch, Rock announced a new goal. A trip to the Green Dungeon. Usually they go there for 2 to 3 days, and it takes about a week. But the route is heavy. Forest, swamps, and impassable areas. However, if you rush directly, you can overcome everything in less than a day. In the direction of the carts of the opponents, Rock realized that they would choose a standard path. If nothing happens in the forest, you will not have to meet them anymore. Although even the shortest route does not guarantee rest, Rock knows that they are waiting for them. Everyone gathered, things are folded, it's time to go on the road. They moved together, uniting around the year. Rock and Shannon sat on the lacquer, and he rushed forward through the spaces. As you should expect from Fenrir. No monster dared to attack. Suddenly, some noise was heard. What was it? Is it a trap or someone got into a mess? They asked Laki to turn around. In the forest, they saw a creature with wings and horns, similar to a living statue. A real Gargoyle. She sobbed. But when she noticed the boys, she stopped sharply. This Gargoyle used metal in his attacks. He also owned wind magic, a difficult enemy even for Fenrir. Laki howled and drove off the attack. Rock was surprised. This wolf is really incredible. He directed magic right towards the monster. This level of magic was already dangerous, near the capital of Kronke. If Fenrir fired at full, he will not forgive him. But it was too late to stop him. Rock was angry. It is necessary to act immediately. He went down to the ground. Starting in front of Gargoyle, Rock spread his hands and called a magical sword. A huge magic pyramid appeared. He could not completely stop the spell of Fenrir. But if you focus force at one point, there was still a chance to save the situation. Rock gathered all his power and directed it to Fenrir's magic, cutting the energy flow in half. It was difficult for the boy. He is on the verge. Squeezes the last strength to keep the situation. The forces are exhausted. The body is no longer obeyed. Everything is frozen. Rock chokes, hoping that they manage to have time in time. Laki lay on the ground, covering his eyes with his paws. Shannon stood nearby, warm and alarmed. Laki looked up and then closed his eyes again. But all were goals. No one was injured. Shannon noted that over the year something was wrong. His hand was severely affected. He got the potion and drank it immediately. The body was instantly healed. Shannon looked impressed. The potion was from a rare apple X. Laki cursed, apologizing. He spoiled everything again, but Rock just smiled. The guy leaned against the wolf and thanked him. He tried to help, and it really meant a lot. But he added, "Lacquer magic belongs to the type of catastrophe. From now on, they should train together and learn control." Laki howled and wept even more. He promised to try. Even Gargoyle was angry. He looked at the year in surprise, not understanding who he really is in this form. Gargoyle shouted at fear and called the rock merry. He shouted his teeth. He wanted to hear anything from the mouth of this creature. But why roars in the middle of the forest? It turned out that Gargoyle was sad. He was expelled from the Demon Lord army. Rock was surprised. It turns out that monsters can also be released. Gargoyle was made of residues, had weak magic, so he only cleaned the castle for 100 years. But the army's leadership has recently changed. He was told that they did not need a monster who knows nothing. He wandered in the woods in despair until he reached the village. But the peasants were scared and attacked him. He had to run, Rock thought. People are often afraid of demons. But everything that this Gargoyle did was cleaning the castle. It was his first meeting with people. Gargoyle covered the bitterness. The idea that he was worse than people hurt the most. He thought, what then the purpose of his life? Rock recalled that Gargoyle is the elite warriors of the Demon Lord army. They need a lot of magic to create them. It is hard to believe that they were done from the remnants. The guy reasoned what was next. What does this creature plan? Gargoyle cursed again. Rock tried to reassure him. He offered to go with them. Even if it is weak and stopped on cleanliness, it is not important. The main thing is that he devoted 100 years to cleaning. Gargoyle blossomed with joy. He thanked the year and asked for permission to join the team. Suddenly, a voice came in his head. Gargoyle was sealed to become a friend of year. Will the guy accept him as a friend? Rock wondered. Is there a sealed force in Gargoyle? He only knows that he was created by the previous Demon Lord, and the rest is a secret. The guy greeted him again. Still hesitation, but he answered with goodwill. The sealed Gargoyle suddenly turned into a sacred beast and became a friend of the year. With a new creature, he can now explore the garden. This time, Rock decided to expand the hut. There was more place. It was a real victory. The village was nearby. There should be something interesting here. Friends saw the cat and were surprised how a cabbage field could grow here in Glushan. Loki was already curled up and slept. It was already evening outside, so Rock suggested a snack before the night. In the morning they went on, finally reached the place mentioned by Gargoyle. It was the village of Choshino. At the entrance they were met by a snoring man. Rock carefully tried to wake him up, but nothing happened. Then she tried Shannon, putting her hand on his shoulder. The man opened his eyes, saw the girl, and exclaimed that it was a real angel from heaven. He decided that it was time to go with her to the world. And if such a sweet girl picks him up, then it is not scary. He held out his lips, trying to kiss. Noticing the situation, the lacquers quickly intervened, rescuing the girl from a kiss. Seeing the rest of the team, the old man was frightened and decided it was a bandit. Rock assured that they were only travelers who go to the caves, but learned about the village on the road. They came just on time. The man advised to turn to the elder of the village. Looking back, Rock noticed everyone looked at them with alert. People in the village looked tired. Although there was no famine in these parts, the appearance of the inhabitants testified to the lack of food. Someone gladly greeted travelers. It was a friendly old woman, Anagami, a local headman. Rock introduced himself, Shannon, and the holy beast Loki. Anagami addressed the one who slept. They say this time the dream was useful. His experience even allows you to recognize events in a dream. He boasted that he had just got rid of the stone statue. Touching, though with a hint that a man, apparently, sight. The peasants began to argue with each other. Rock politely interrupted them, asking what they wanted to talk about. Men apologized and conveyed the word of old age. A year has passed since the goblins left the swamp of the Green Garden. From that time, everything has become bad. The harvest disappeared, and then the village has suffered a plague. Goblins stole the last food. Young men tried to destroy enemies but were defeated. Now the village was for help. Rock understood the complexity of the situation. However, when goblin becomes a lot, they turn into a terrible power. The village turned to the state and guild, but without a worthy remuneration of assistance was not received. Rock thought gloomily. He cannot just help everyone. It does not make money, and he still looks for the path of the adventurer. In addition, even if helping now, the village will again ask. They need to learn to survive on their own. So far, the guy has asked for a map of the area and data on the location of the goblins. He looked at the map carefully, analyzing the position of the enemy. Rock came to the conclusion that getting rid of goblins is quite real. He also mentioned the cabbage beds they saw. Therefore, the village is not starving. The peasants were glad and thanked, but Rock warned, if they change nothing, it will happen again and again. Have to ask someone. In order to avoid repeating trouble, Rock proposed to help with the development of the village. In exchange, he asked in the future only 20% of the profit when the village began to flourish. This decision of the headman could not make on his own. The consent of the entire community was needed. Since they are now engaged in another task, if all residents join, Rock agree only 10%. It is only a net profit, selling minus the cost and work of people. Even if the village does not agree, they will still destroy the goblins and give food. The peasants began to discuss the hard lively. Rock patiently waited for their decision. The problem of the village is in its location. Poor access, abandoned fields, no products. They buy everything from afar, have no basic security. Rock could help for free, but it would not change anything. The peasants themselves want to change. The elder asked, time to meet the community. Shannon asked what was next. Rock replied that the village would have a lot of profit. They are unlikely to give up. In any case, the preparation should be started in the garden. Rock asked Shannon to inform when the decision of the old age. The headman apologized for the delay. People's thoughts were shared. But if nothing is done, the situation will not improve. He considers it normal to invest some of the profit into unforeseen costs. Rock agreed with that. If the peasants are ready for cooperation, the boys will take care of both goblins and food, and the village will not be in danger. A new wave of discussions began. But the village is unlikely to find a more profitable proposal. But here, a man who did not believe the year came out of the crowd. He was called Warren. The wounded, but stubborn, he doubted the intentions of the traveler. The elder was indignant. This guy, they say, if it were not for the wound, he would deal with the goblins. He was joined by several more wounded. Rock began to scratch on his pocket. He pulled out a bottle of his own potion and offered Warren. He gave up sharply. To prove efficiency, Rock suggested that Shannon potion. At first she hesitated, but still decided to try. She repeated and made a sip. Her eyes were rounded. The potion turned out to be surprisingly delicious. She was surprised. She always considered healing potions sour and disgusting, but it was tender and pleasant to taste. The body spilled lightness. Lucky also asked to try. He opened his mouth, and Rock poured him a little. The wolf swallowed, and he liked it too. He jumped happily around, saying that the potion refreshes and soothes. And yet, delicious. Rock again suggested that Voran try. He hesitates, suspecting deception, but still decided to take a sip, and immediately lost. He felt the pain disappears, and the body appears lightness. He was surprised what this healing potion was. Not like the old, musty. It tastes like fresh apple juice. Sweet, acidic, clean, and refreshing. The taste reminded him of first love. And so, a miracle. The pain disappeared. The leg began to move. It's something incredible. Rock noted that the boys have another task, but if they help the village, he will share her potions with all the wounded. Warren, without hesitation, said that they would gladly accept help if Rock cures them to the end. He turned out to be a deputy old age and apologized for distrust. Now they fully support the Rock. The elder turned to the peasants. No one denied. The agreement was concluded. To celebrate, Rock suggested a light snack. 6 days remained before the task. He began to cook something delicious. Even the usual cabbage, which was previously fed to horses, turned into a real delicacy. Today, cabbage soup. And it is delicious. While preparing, he added a little healing potion. Those who were bad quickly felt the improvement. Rock asked Shannon to help him. He advised to bring an Anson's orange ant to protect the peasants during the collection of materials. She was confused. She did not believe that she could cope. But Rock was convinced that she would handle even local monsters. The orange anon would cope with themselves, despite their height. Shannon promises to do everything he can. They want to pave the road just to the motto. The flow of travelers will solve the problem with food and supply of goods. Before that, Rock began to act very vigorously, which surprised the locals. He put the magic of strengthening on them, so people began to move much faster, though the effect did not last long. Everyone was delighted with such ease in the body. Rock warned everyone to be careful. Shannon struck how easily he strengthened so many people. He believes that with the right workout, and she will be able to do it. He promised to teach, and the girl caught fire. He then suggested that everyone start building the road. A little magic does not hurt this. Everyone went to the case with inspiration. There were a lot of work, so they decided to rest a little. The road is already paved with stone and cleared. If everything goes so, they will be completed tomorrow. Thanks to magic lacquers, construction is extremely fast. Now that the path is opened, the trade is about to start. Rock's satellites were even steeper than in his dreams. Meanwhile, Rock was engaged in things in the garden. Shannon brought him a hot drink. The guy planned tomorrow and advised her to relax. Today she worked more than others. But the girl could not sleep quietly until he was overloaded. He does not like when she calls him a master, asks not to do so. He does not consider her his subordinate. In response, Shannon noted that he was very good, and she is happy to meet him. Rock also smiled. Their paths crossed in vain. He shared his plans. Tomorrow we'll ask the peasants to collect cabbage, and after tomorrow, he will go to sell the goods in the capital. In the year, there is a suspicion that cabbage scarcity is now in the city. I am sure everything will be bought out. But he does not forget about a guild task that has not yet been completed. They will certainly win, but even more importantly, how they will achieve it. Rock thought about Titus, but noticed that Shannon was already sleeping firmly. In her dream, she muttered, having a wonderful friend. Rock used magic to purify her thoughts from unnecessary. He was grateful to her. All his magical beasts were already sleeping sweetly. Rock wanted to get out of the house quietly, but Loki simply did not allow him to do it. He was surprised that the wolf was not sleeping. Tonight they had to catch rainbows, which are better caught at night. Loki recalled Goblin. Rock believes that the presence of lacquers in the village already holds the goblins in itself. And even if they remain, other adventurers will come and cope with them. Loki was a little surprised, but agreed with the decision of a friend. After the meeting, they went hunting. Fishing for rainbow dragonflies turned out to be exciting and went successful. The next morning, Rock woke up from the sounds of cooking. He thought that Shannon got up so early to cook breakfast and happily moved to the kitchen, thanking her and offered help. But in the kitchen, he saw Gargoyle, who assured, "Everything will be ready in 3 minutes." Rock was stunned. It became unfortunate that breakfast is not prepared by Shannon. Gargoyle did not understand what was the matter. Rock hurried to assure that all was well and again offered help. But Gargoyle asked to rely on him. Once the demon driver trusted him to cook for all. Rock understood everything. Meanwhile, Shannon went into the kitchen and wished a good morning. She immediately began to apologize for falling asleep last night. Rock asked her not to worry and suggested to work together. The girl was happy. She wanted to cook breakfast herself, but Gargoyle insisted that she leaves the case. Rock perceived it with gratitude, though with some suspicion. Meanwhile, Shannon wondered how he was feeling. She suspected that Rock was going to catch the grandmothers at night. He confirmed with a smile that he thought that she was sleeping firmly, but he was not herself. Shannon wants to be useful and also help. Rock is genuinely rejoiced and promises to bring her with him next time. It is very counting on it. Meanwhile, the breakfast was ready. Day 2, noon. One of the inhabitants went to the bazaar to sell cabbage and pass the wings of rainbow dragons to the guild. Rock wanted to know the market value of the crop. He asked the traveler to be careful. Now that the road is laid before lunch, it is time to sell something on the market. Later, Rock plans to teach residents how to catch rainbows massively. If you plow the fields and grow cabbage there, food problems will be resolved. At night they did it. Rock praised the ants. They coped perfectly with the laying of a stone path. Even artisans were amazed. The ants shone with joy. One local resident thanked them. She thought all the monsters are scary, but these ants were surprisingly sweet girls. They were made up of praise. The elder approached the year. The elder thanked the day. He did not believe that the road to the capital could be completed in 2 days. They are ready to give a year 10% of the village property. Rock accepted the proposal and asked to send funds through the guild. The old man called him a rescuer and promised that each payment would be timely. After that, before dawn, they split to get Lake Orningo and a green emerald belonging to the green frog. They could not get it, but it will be possible to do it later. The next day, Rock covered a strange anticipation. He felt that Isaac would arrive in place earlier than expected. It worried him. Rock decided that every effort should be made today. A bird sat on his shoulder. Very friendly. Rock was surprised that a chick appeared in the mini-garden. Ant Girl believes that Dad is mistaken. She said it was not just a bird, but a celestial bird. The main character was shocked. He believed that heavenly birds should be much larger. But the ants explained that when they collected the materials, they found a rare eye. And when the bird swallowed it, it decreased. Rock was not too surprised. He decided to turn the chick into stone, but the baby was happy. Rock added that everything would return to normal. After all, nothing is threatened with them. A sharp stench suddenly appeared in the air. Something clearly was wrong. Rock suggested that it smells of varnish. Although he was not sure. He was interested in when he was the last time. Lucky was discontinued because they were together. The hero did not see any soap nor a towel. After a short pause, he dreamed that he may have been to wash the day yesterday. The attempt to turn out clearly failed. Lakey was angry. Even if he does not bathe, he licked himself. But the year was not suitable. The hero announced the operation of the lacquer and bathing. Everyone was just waiting for this moment. Lucky perceived it as a challenge. He was convinced that no one was catching him. Rock began to read the spell. He applied magic to all but lacquers. It is short-lived, but increases power and speed. Everyone rejoiced in this bonus. But Lucky warned everyone boldly. They are stupid if they think that some magic will be able to overcome it. The first was Peter, the queen of orange myrrh. She rushed forward like lightning, attacking the legendary Fenrir. Lucky did not consider it a threat, especially if she acted, but Patrick suddenly threw a spider web. Lucky easily evaded until he saw all the ants activated at the same time. He was surrounded. On all sides, sticky threads flew. They entangled his paws, and the proud wolf fell. Together with him, his self-confidence. Orange again celebrated the triumph. It was Petra's brilliant plan, to make lacquers relax. Rock rushed to him, calling finally to be a polite boy. But the lacquers, having escaped, made a counterattack and tied everyone. Decal lacquer was the right solution, and it was required to hold tremendous magical power. Orange ants were quite upset, and here the Gargoyle appeared. The next challenge was accepted by Gargoyle, the former elite warrior of the army of the demonic lord. His duel with a proud sacred beast Lucky is a true fight of honor, but Lucky did not believe that one of the rivals had a chance. It is always underestimated. Gargoyle, though weaker, belonged to a proud kind. He has accumulated knowledge of 100 years, and the support of the year was not to be underestimated. He was in favor of what was despised. However, one lacquer tail stroke was enough to get the opponent from the game. He is waiting for the next, and then Shannon enters the circle. She offers sparring. Fenrir, who is not accustomed to obedience, against the ELN, blessed by his teacher. Lucky is intrigued that she can. Shannon grabs the sword. She attacks the first, but in a moment Lydia stands behind her back. Fenrir laughs. This speed does not scratch it. But Shannon does not seem. It collapses the hail of punches on the lacquer. It turns out that she is not such a bad sword. Let the attacks and disorderly. But suddenly their accuracy grows. Lydia is no longer so self-confident. He was in a dead end. She does not understand how she made him respect her power. Satisfied, Shannon asks him to be an obedient boy and go to wash. But it happens unexpected. The tip of the tail of the lacquer stops at her neck. It clearly makes it clear. It is in vain to fight. Shannon lowers his head. She seems. Lydia praises her. She was moving well, so daily workouts are not in vain. The Elfian blossoms out of praise. Now the turn of the year. Lydia goes to the main course. The battle with the one who most wants to buy it. The warm-up is complete. Lydia is ready to take any blow. And here everything has changed. Its distraction is a sweet aroma that appeared over his head. It was a heavenly bird with a flower in its beak. Lydia's eyes began to close and the body flicker. He fell asleep just in his eyes. In a minute he is already sweet. Rock recognized the flower. Sleeping pill. He thanked the heavenly bird. Rock offers everyone to care for lacquers. Everyone is glad. On the same day, near the dungeon of new leaves, Isaac is dissatisfied. They had to travel too long. He hates Rock, considers him a traitor. Amy disagree, confident, betrayed the first. It is even more annoyed by Isaac. It rages. How can you worry about some carrier of things? He fought on the front line, rose to S rank, and yet, without it, others also reached this level. He will not suffer. Isaac wants to win, to prove to everyone who is the main. Carrick holds orange eggs. Isaac immediately refuses to assist with their collection. The rainbow dragon is almost gone. Amy tries to explain. She says Isaac knows that. There is no need to collect everything. Their main goal is quite different. Kara tries to understand where such self-confidence comes from. But Isaac does not want to hear anything from her. She was pressed. He takes an order without even learning the details, and then simply adds participants to the group. Girls only help because they do not have a choice. After this request, they will leave. Isaac is indifferent. The main thing is that they execute the assignment, and then he will give orders. They approach the destination. The driver reports that they arrived. Isaac pays and leaves the rest for tea, but it was not enough. The driver brought them much closer to the dungeon than anyone else. Without a surcharge, considers it a waste of time. Isaac reluctantly gives the rest of the money. Now it should be enough. The driver thanked and went back. Isaac boils from anger. Everyone around is like a settlement, but he will not stop. Before them is a new dungeon. Only 4 days left before the deadline. The group moves forward. They entered an unknown place filled with secrets. Meanwhile, in another corner of the world, everyone is happy to stroke. Lydia, but in the dungeon of new leaves the goal is only the outbursts that hide deep inside. They moved silently until they came across Oren. Isaac wanted to catch them on the way back. The punishment was scared. Amy remained indifferent. No one answered Isaac. They reached the reservoir. Surprisingly, there were no rainbows and green frogs at all. Orano was still, but Isaac did not find any eggs. He did not understand how to collect the necessary materials in such conditions. It seemed to him that the guild had just substituted them without even checking the true state of affairs. If so, the wine is obvious. Isaac decided to file a complaint on the guild after returning, but his thoughts were interrupted by the threat. Goblin jumped out of the bushes and rushed at him. The sword did not expect such an attack. Goblin paid for his boldness. The payment was instant. Isaac blames guild, they say. They did not warn about Goblin. It is irresponsibility. The problems are not over. A whole pack appeared. Another came out in front of the Goblin Knight. Once the high-level goblins appeared, perhaps this place has become their den. Isaac did not wait and rushed to the enemies. He decided to attack. But the Hoblin Knight answered a powerful counterattack. Their swords agreed in the battle. Isaac remembered how the guy said, over the year they were under divine protection, and now, as if in the sea without a compass. He bit his teeth from anger, and couldn't believe that is true. He simply did not allow the thought of defeat. Suddenly, the fire spell is stitched by Goblin, an unexpected attack. The girls intervene in battle. They are concerned. The situation becomes too dangerous. Isaac is grunting that he could handle such a little. Kara quit that the battle looked grueling. It just angered him. Meanwhile, goblins surrounded a detachment. Amy urges everyone to focus on the enemy. It is necessary to break the ring. The battle broke out with new force, but the Goblin Knight finally fell. He may have been a leader. The threat has been temporarily over. Isaac offers not to waste time, to find out and return to the guild. The girls are reluctant to agree. They reach the den. There are many of them here. Isaac lays out the plan. He distracts the out and Amy uses magic to damage his wings. Then it will be easier to get them. 2 goals have been chosen. They are kept out of the pack. Amy nods. Isaac breaks from the place and rushes to the enemies. The outs are crying. They fly into the air. Everything goes according to plan. Isaac gives a signal. Amy produces fire arrows. They punch the air and beat out. They fall, and Isaac instantly attacks. The monsters are overwhelmed. Everything is the best. Isaac is ready to go to the next battle. But suddenly, another outburst sneaks from behind, just to the girls. His long tail carries them off their feet. Isaac is rushing to rescue comrades. The punishment evilly throws him that he did not protect them. She is convinced that Rock would never have admitted it. Her anger is an echo of disappointment. Isaac explodes. He screams on the punishment, they say. A rock is here to nothing. He could not know about another one. And in general, girls have to be able to protect themselves. Kara, shocked, is not the person she trusted. The punishment does not believe in the nonsense of Isaac and says Amy to go with her. Otherwise, they will not survive with such a leader. Amy is stunned, but tries to keep calm. Isaac in despair begs to stay, but the punishment is unwavering. She can no longer be near him. He watches how they are removed. Amy tries to persuade punishment, but in vain. The eyes of Isaac dim. Kara convinces the girlfriend that it will be easier for them to go over the year. At this time, Isaac squeezes the sword's arms even more. Навіть вона його покинула. The year silhouette appears. He remembers how the teacher recognized the superiority of the year over him, and as the teacher himself was disappointed in him. All the words that were earlier were true. The terns already surrounded Isaac, spreading their mouths. As if losing sense, he declares that it will make these creatures defeat. He lays the sword into the ground. It will not allow the year to win. Amy and punishment are understood. Everything is bad. Isaac causes the great cross. The girls hide behind a rock. A huge pillar of fire breaks out of the ground. The explosion is visible even from the village. Shannon wants to say something of the year, but he understood everything. It is a matter of Isaac's hands and punishment. Rock offers Shannon to go with him. She agrees. The rest will remain in the village and continue its work. No one denied. The lacquer has great hope. At the entrance to the dungeon there is a smoke. 3 shapes appear from the dark. One of them is barely holding on. It is Isaac, supported by Amy. He turned the eruptions and all the materials on the ashes. Everything was destroyed on the evil of the year. Isaac believes that now guys will not be able to fulfill the order. Rock is shocked by such a meanness. Shannon proposes to go to the capital and buy the right materials at the bazaar. It is not quite honest, but guarantees victory. She saw them on sale outside the city. Rock is convinced that some are still remained. He proposes to survey the territory near the capital. Isaac, satisfied, sends them in search. He is looking forward to a new meeting. Rock does not meet anything. The Rock team on the road comes on the beaten goblins and ducks. They look again in the dungeon. Before them is the body of goblin leader. It was he who headed those goblins. Now the village does not threaten anything. Loki is completely satisfied. Everything really broke into dust, he confirmed. Rock recognizes that Isaac has a great magical potential. His strength is great, but all that could be handed over the guild is destroyed. The scales and claws are torn. They were already going to go when Loki found something interesting behind the rocks. These were the eggs of the wires, intact, well hidden. Loki wants to taste them, but Rock proposes to bring them to the mini-farm. They return to the village. Local councils who have lost the threats of goblins. Shannon proposes to take care of the swampy terrain of New Leaves, but Rock notes that the map is outdated, and those swamps are now dungeons. Shannon is clear. While waiting, when Isaac and his team donate materials to the guild, Rock devotes himself to the development of the village completely. He teaches to plant cabbage, catch rainbows. And here comes the day of departure. Rock a little confused. He does not understand why the entrance to the village is more like a defensive fortress. Patrick explains. Now thanks to this design, even in the event of monsters attack, the village will be safe. The elder wants to attract the attention of Rock. All residents worship the year with gratitude. From now on, they will follow his advice and continue to develop the village. The village is grateful to both the Patri and all the heroes. Now Cabbage is the main treasure, and the name of the settlement is changing to Cabbage Choshino. Everyone is waiting for them to visit again. Rock says goodbye to a smile. He is happy. Now it is necessary to deal with the detachment of Isaac. Their path lies in the capital, a mole. The finale awaits them there. To the main city of the kingdom, Krista. In the Rock and Shannon Bazaar start searches, they were called by one of the victims. Rock asks for sales. And indeed, cabbage diverges like hot pies. Perhaps because they replaced the cabbage soup on the cabbage, which they served daily and allowed everyone to try. In addition, the special product went well. Due to this, Rock made a lot of money. The peasant transfers him a share from the sale under the agreement. Rock is very pleased with success and proposes to buy a demon Korov. This will help the development of the village. The village is very grateful to the year. Everything they have now has made it possible thanks to it. Preparation is completed. Rock says goodbye to the village. The last step remained. In the guild, Isaac and his team were already waiting for the year. Isaac was eagerly waiting. All the necessary materials were already lying on the table. Rock does not seem to expect it. Isaac thought the Rock fled because he could not collect the right things. But Rock will not do it. Isaac is boldly laughing at him. He thinks that Rock has nothing. Rock does not pay attention and asks whether the materials are handed over. He wants to solve it as soon as possible. Isaac believes that Rock just bluffs and shows steepness. The guild begins check. There is a pause. Isaac hopes to see his opponent kneel and apologize. Rock does not want to upset the opponent, but understands that someone else will have to apologize. Isaac does not understand what is happening. The chief manager announces, Rock team surrendered 20 pairs of wings of rainbow grannies, 3 religious eggs, and 15 emeralds. Victory in the competition was awarded to Mr. The manager adds that Isaac will not be able to deny. Rock surrendered another 13 scales, 10 claws, 60 wings, 9 eggs, and 45 other materials in advance. Isaac began to scratch, making the appearance of fighting the monster. Only Rock was not sure of this. Rock gave evidence. The materials had a seal of Kakasino village. Isaac was shocked. Rock, given what he saw at the entrance to the dungeon, he suggested that they could not receive the necessary materials. Therefore, he ordered Shannon to say that if it is true, then you should return to the royal capital, buy materials there and send to the guild. She saw the necessary materials for sale outside the city. Rock believes that Isaac hoped that he would not have all the materials to pursue the victory to buy a deficit. But even then, they had enough materials, and the things that Isaac bought at an inflated price were out of their stock. If it weren't for the greed of Isaac, he would not spend so much money. Isaac is very angry and offended because Rock had previously gone to the dungeon. Rock explains that they studied the map carefully. There was a hint on a faster but dangerous way directly from the mole to the dungeon. Isaac is angry, but the punishment interrupted it. It turns out she knew about it. Isaac is indignant why she said nothing before. The punishment stood firmly on its own. She believed that going through the dangerous forest was wrong. Isaac despises this because it is a competition for them to stay S-wound adventurers. He brutally tries to win him. Rock seems to be the only one who is truly hungry for victory. Isaac is clenching his teeth from anger. Rock thanked him for the victory over the goblins because they worried the peasants of Choshino, and there was no money to pay the guild. Rock suggests that guild has partially chose this task to help the village, and it seems a good idea. Titus. Kid acknowledged everything, including conspiracy with Isaac, explained the head. It was the end of their group. Isaac. Realizing the defeat, he fell to his knees, worshipping Victor. Victor, this is how the case was resolved. The consideration has ended. After interrogation, Isaac and others were punished. Amy, the punishment left a friend, but because of the persecution of Fenrir, that is, because of life. Therefore, they were reduced to the rank of SR. The S-join group is dissolved. Kara and Amy wanted to form a team with a year, but he politely refused. They later entrusted each other again and formed their own team. Kid is sentenced to imprisonment. The investigation of his past crimes has been initiated. The term may be increased. Isaac escaped the fate of the slave, but was forced to produce for 6 months. If you want to become an adventurer, you will have to start from scratch. Rock wanted to talk about himself, but thoughts interrupted the attention to the lacquer. Rock did not think special, just regret his childhood. Friends grew together, but never know each other's true face. There was something to think about. It was these friends who destroyed his relationship with his family. But now Rock was able to accept the bitterness of betrayal. From now on, he will trust his friends and use force for them. Rock asked Lockie to take care of everything the next day. Lockie asked to rely on him. Shannon called everyone to food, and so they solved another problem. Stuffed cabbage will be stagged this evening. At that time, Rock did not know that he would soon be in the case that he would directly touch the royal capital. Where did Ogre near the royal capital? Ogre were in the offensive. People were thrown back by the blow of the fists on the ground. The situation is very bad. If so, they will destroy the lock. One of the men said that it was necessary to keep the knight's arrival. The other disagreed. He believes that the knights will take away everything. The wounded resumed strength, but they were already OGR. He swung to hit. Suddenly, Rock and Lacquer appeared. The wolf managed to catch the blow, grabbing the hand of the plow. Rock apologized to people who lingered through other cases. They left the baked on him. You could rely on the year. People left the guy with the wolf and went counterattack. The plowman's hand was still in the wolf's mouth. The OGR swept the other hand for a year. Amy appeared behind the plow and imprisoned, saving the Rock. A person should not relax. Rock asked Pater to take the leadership. She is well able to lead. Pater divided everyone into groups B, C, and D. Group B with Gargoyle, and Shannon will fight next to the year, using auxiliary magic to reinforce the team. Time for everyone to attack. The whole team rushed to war with weapons and magic. Together they destroyed one plow, while Fenrir overthrew the other with one blow. The wolf was bored from such an attack. It is not even a warm-up. Loki is very strong, although Ogre themselves are approximately S-rang. Pater seems to be doing well. It can coordinate adventurers and simultaneously fight the cucumber. She and Shannon are a good team that should be expected from the Queen of Ants. Someone smiled. Rock turned and saw the pattern and Gargoyle in front of him who attacked the monster. Gargoyle used a magical ball of wind on the plow but was horribly surprised. Magic did not work. Rock mentioned that Gargoyle's magic was still sealed, and he is unlikely to be able to remove it on its own. He must do something. Help! The team stood, surrounded by broken enemies. The ladder is overthrown. The guys rejoice. They did it. As we should expect from the Rock team, residents of the capital were rescued. But Ogre rarely appear in these parts. To attack 10 at the same time, this was unheard of. Rock thought, trying to figure out what was happening. Patra imposed a healing spell on the walls. People are grateful for her for treatment. If they are really grateful, the punishment is not mine to accept a gift. New clothes. Everyone whom she gave a part of her magic remains in her heart. She will probably never change. A group of Imperial knights on horseback appeared in the capital. The captain of the Imperial Knights. Marcus thanked the Rock team for his cooperation in the study of Ogre. To find out the cause of their attack today, the knights will take away the bodies for further investigation. Objections are not accepted. Rock and Shannon looked at each other in surprise. Someone hit the table sharply, screaming at Marcus. It was the head of the guild. He quarreled the captain for trying to steal the monsters they had just destroyed. Marcus repeated that it was necessary for research. Gathering in the capital is a strange thing and needs a thorough investigation. He questioned Titus about the past. The guild head was outraged. In his opinion, the proposed amount was too small. Marcus explained that it was monetary compensation for cooperation in the operation. Trade, here to nothing. The captain of the knights looked at all after the battle. He did not collaborate. Titus grabbed his chest. Those who fought and risked their lives are adventurers. Therefore, Marcus is obliged to pay equivalent compensation. The captain boldly asked Titus to let him go. Does he want to quarrel with the knight? Titus was indeed an experienced fighter. They were interrupted by the administrative staff of the guild. The river came with the deputy captain. They took the conversation. Titus regretted that he allowed himself to intervene. Marcus smiled. Rock entered the office with Patria on his neck, and Shannon was standing nearby. Without waiting, Titus stated that he knew about the situation. If such oppression continues, all adventurers will leave this place. Adventurers are important for the development of the country and is a key line of defense. They help solve people's problems, hunt monsters, and explore dungeons. What is the result? Reduction of victims due to monster attacks. Mysterious objects from the dungeons are bought to increase power. And these are not all reasons, but Marcus understands. Nothing. Rock is surprised. Not daily Titus is so emotional. The relationship of the head of the guild with the knight is real. Roken. Titus recalls that there is one assignment. The fact is that the number of theft of magic stones called burning stones has increased in the capital. Since there was no witnesses, it was very difficult to investigate. Тому Titus хоче, щоб Рок знову розслідував цю справу. The guy hesitated for a moment, but the head of the guild assured him in full trust in his abilities. Of course, they will pay even if the perpetrator is not caught. And if they catch, there will be a bonus. Rock began to tell how he would do it, but he was interrupted by a very loud Shannon stomach grunt. She is ashamed that everyone has heard it. Leaving the guild, the team began to eat something, staying a little. It was a metropolitan dish. The meat is grinding on a skewers. The dish is inexpensive, but through fat melts in the mouth. Shannon feels discomfort due to what happened earlier. All the boys and the head of the guild were busy. She should not worry. Rock was hungry. Since the boys are full, it's time to move on. Weapons and equipment nearby. The boys went into the weapon and equipment store. His name is Matthias. He heard a lot with the former comrades of Rock. These people laughed at his supporting magic. But this is not the best way to save life. Rock was surprised that Matthias knew about his divine protection. Of course the seller knows. He is the owner of the weapon store, and the equipment is not the best. Rock smiled. Matthias asked what brought the guy to the store, noticing the ants. Rock explained that he wanted to pick up the equipment. The seller noticed the crown on Patra's head, and realized that she was the queen of orange ants. He then noticed Gargoyle from the detachment of experienced soldiers. He said Rock in his usual repertoire and allowed the boy to choose everything he needed. The team seems to have decided on the equipment. Rock asked Shannon and Gargoyle if they were satisfied with the choice. Shannon explained that she was trusting in her usual equipment, and Gargoyle's main power is magic. Rock noticed that Patra had chosen a staff. She said she wanted to help people magic, like him. But will she be able to use it? Rock smiled, sat down and put his hand on his head. The strength in it is, so it is worth trying. Together, they will train amplifting magic that just suits the king. Rock reported Matthias that the choice of equipment. The store entered the store. The owner apologized for the tight. The man unnoticed to Patra behind, and roaring her leg. The ant fell. Rock rushed to check whether he was wounded. The stranger was outraged that the monsters were not a place in the store. He called Rock a non-suitable animal bout and spoiled a peaceful atmosphere. The foreigner is convinced that Rock allows himself to be superficial because he has a handful of creature, ready to follow every way. Smiling, the man asked who Rock considers himself. He grabbed the pattern. She was quietly written. Rock is immediately interested in her well-being. The Queen Marak assures that everything is fine with her. If it were a real training from a sudden attack, she beats. The attacker would fall first, a trifle for a wound monster. "Monster!" exclaimed the man, demanding attention and again asking if they know who before them. None of the team recognized him. Patra decided that it was a common rabbit, and Gargoyle, that are lovers of beat girls in front of them. By calling everyone dirty peasants, the stranger finally introduced himself. His name is Nisli. He is not only a high-birth aristocrat, but also a probable future head of the Order of Nothing. He hinted that the dispute with him would turn into conflict with the whole order. The threats did not impress the Rock. It is coldly demanding an apology to the pattern. Nicely blocked the path of Shannon and ordered her to pick up the monsters. The elf that has lived for centuries knows perfectly well what is worthy of boldness against the order. Calmly, but she wondered sharply. "Are you sure that you are doing by law?" With a contemptuous smile, Nisli called her a old witch, they say. Elves who live among people are nothing better. These words lit up in Shannon's dangerous light of curiosity. The indignation is burning in the eyes of Shannon. She cannot forgive the image against the year, which was called the Vowl of the Beasts. The girl instantly grabs the sword and stands in front of the boy. Misal firmly decides to study the brows in place. As a pest, which does not even understand words. Her courage knows no boundaries. She is ready to show what real manners are. In response, the man reaches his sword. I am convinced that the Elfian will still regret. Another stranger appears behind the wall whose presence alarm. The boys look around instantly. Misal notices a stranger whose appearance adds tension. The atmosphere becomes even more anxious. That man is noticeably nervous. Sweat protrudes on the forehead. The situation seems to be out of control. Misal quickly explains to the stranger. As the leader of the Order of the Knights, he sincerely regrets due to the act of the subordinate and apologizes to the pattern. Fortunately, the Queen of the Ants was not injured. Since Patrick has not been offended, Rock decides to forgive the situation this time. The leader of the order apologizes again, calling Rock by name. Rock is surprised. Does this man know him? Of course, the leader has been knowing the year for a long time, because in his opinion, only failures have not heard of the capital's adventurer rank S. The leader asks Misal whether they finished the investigation. The answer is negative. Then he approaches the shop owner, trying to find out how often firestones disappear. The owner explains that 1 or 2 stones disappear every week. Rock is wondering if there are any traces of criminals today. Unfortunately, the knights have never been able to understand the motives of the thieves. Now stones disappear for 2 to 3 days, and earlier they were stolen even more often. The leader asks the year to inform you if they find at least some useful information. It's time to return to the head office. Knights go, and Rock Shannon is drawn to their eyes. Shannon expected to see more threats in the leader. If it weren't for talking to Titus, Rock could have thought it was a good person. Rock suddenly remembers the important detail and asks Mateo to show the places where all the firestones disappeared. The team needs as much information as possible. The shop owner leads Rock and Mateo to the western door. The feasible approach the desktop and shows the stone lying on the surface. There are 2 entrances in the room, so the thief could make sure for everyone. Why only 1 firestone? If he wanted to make money, he would have stolen more expensive weapons. The guy is interested in the real purpose of theft. The owner shows a firmly closed chest. None of the stones that were inside disappeared. The stones disappeared only from other places. Rock cannot draw conclusions from the available information. He approaches Mateo and asks for permission to call his families because he takes up a lot of space. The owner agrees, and Rock begins the ritual. The wolf comes out of the bracelet, barely finding a place in a tight room. Fenrir grunts that he has been caused in such a tightness, does not hide indignation. Mateo heard rumors about such families, but he was convinced only now, seeing everything with his own eyes. The question arises, will Fenrir be able to feel a thief by smell? It will not be easy, because the room mixes many aromas. There are so many different smells that you need to find the right call even for a wolf. Mateo is amazed. How can this familio be in a bracelet? Seeing how skillfully Rock manages the subject, the owner does not restrain the admiration. Theo has a conversation with Shannon. He recalls that at the first meeting, Rock was somewhat awkward. It's hard to believe that he had such a period. The owner wants to share something from Shannon, but Rock stops him. It would be interesting for the girl to know the details. Mateo appeals to Patrick with apologies and wants to make a gift as a sign of his respect. He gives her a backbone, herself to go from mithril. A light but high, such a gift will definitely need. Rock is surprised by such rare material. Weapons of such metal are the prerogative of kings and elite aristocrats. Rock hesitates to take such a treasure, but Mateo does not deny. It turns out that the family ordered a backpack for their own child, but she was seriously ill and will not be able to use it. The family instructed the master to dispose of the thing on his own, but he could not destroy the work of many days. He will be grateful if the boys use this product, especially since the payment has already been received. Rock understands everything and accepts a gift, but Mateo wants to make several achievements, asks to return in a few days. The next day before the flock of the boar stands armed orange ants. Rock is stunned. He managed to defeat a huge boar with 1 blow, because it is a beast of rank B. Ants continue the fight and achieve great success. The guy is delighted with their rapid adaptation. Everyone has mastered the weapon on the first attempt. He thought that they were used to beating the naked, and did not even imagine that combat abilities would grow so with the advent of weapons. Rock is delighted to watch the ants and eagerly waits for what will happen next. The boar slavery is completed. The new weapon gave a chance to test the skills in the battlefield, and they did not feel any difficulties in the taming of the beasts. Ant B, the guy asks whether it hurts after the fight, and she shakes his head rapidly and smiles calmly. Patra cheerfully calls him, touches his head. Rock immediately understands everything without words, squats nearby and gently strokes her shaky shell. Other ants happily pile for a year. The satisfied team is raging, and the guy hears a strange jammage whisper. A bizarre voice announces that the holy beast of Wyvern will soon be born and asks whether Rock wants to become his friend, although the ants are already quite cute and strong. The new ally will soon appear, so everyone is looking forward to the swinging eggs, rejoicing in successful incubation. Rock thanks the heavenly bird who looked after the eggs, because no one was expecting such a rapid hatching. Luck is felt in every breath. Even lackers are surprised and a little upset, because Rock has now made friends with Wyvern and got the opportunity to improve 3 objects in this mini mimicity. A menu of improvements appears before the eyes. The guy immediately chooses hot springs, a mine and a banana garden in a mini Monstrograd. Hot springs now shine at heights. Bathing in them promises incredible sensations, and in the mine it will be possible to forge weapons and armor with special ores. The banana garden is open for gathering. Rock is happy to watch as a mini Monstrograd joyfully divides the harvest with laughter and loud trillas. He proposes to return to the guild and report on the order to curb the huge boar rank B, riding on Fenrir. The company goes road. Rock shares with Shannon plan to prepare the meat of a giant beast and sell the rest of the goods on the market. He is already thinking about fur and fangs, but suddenly scattered when the varnish grabs something strange. A fiery ball shakes above the group. It burns just over a few wooden crosses. The wolf immediately rushes to check the unusual phenomenon. The team follows the lacquer, arrives in the crosses, but the bullet disappears, as if it had never been. There is an alarming silence in the air. Rock carefully inspects the terrain. The soil is warm, as if recently absorbed the flames, and there are no visible traces. Shannon feels a weak magical wave that spreads from the crosses into the ground, as if someone had etched here. Fenrir is quiet. The ears are wary. The guy understands that it can be a spell or bookmark of a new trap for careless travelers. The team decides to mark this place on the map and continue the path to return to more preparation for the disclosure of the secret. Shannon is timidly pulling the year by the sleeve, and in a trembling voice confesses that ghosts are horrified. So it is difficult for her to stand here even a minute. Rock gently strokes the girl on the head and assures that they are nearby, and if necessary she can hide in a mini-monsters where she will feel safe. They stand near the burial, and the guy leans to look at the inscription on the stone and notices a sophisticated symbol, carved with great respect. On the stove it is engraved, "Here's a great wise damboard." Words radiate peace, as if the earth itself carries out its memory. Rock recalls legends in which Demord was called a great wise, whose name was passed through generation as a symbol of incomprehensible erudition. According to legend, she went to the castle of the king demons and forced them to sign a truce, giving the country for many years of rest. Shannon smiles enthusiastically, because even if the story is decorated, the strength of this woman's character strikes the imagination and inspires respect. The sun shakes to the horizon, covering the sky with a purple, so it's time to return to the guild and report on the task. As soon as they come inside, they hear loud complaints that spread the hall and make all those present to look up. It turns out that this knight Missal is outraged by the fact that the request is limited reward and doubts whether someone will agree to such work. Rock approaches the details, and the knight immediately recognizes the beast's yesterday's Eucratiter and shows him a parchment with a task. The request is about the purification and investigation of the sewer, where they found used firestones, for which only 30 golden promise. According to Memsil, such a trifle does not matter, because the noble future commander of the Holy Knights expects immediate acceptance. He states that the guild exists to help the order, and calls the river unselfish and ugly, provoking a wave of indignation. The registrar clarifies whether he really said, and the knight with an arrogant smile confirms his abusive words. The face of the river burns from the insult, but it restrains anger, realizing that the quarrel will cause a hassle to all who stand in line. The administrator smiles kindly and coldly promises to temporarily hang a request for the bulletin board, leaving the final decision for the guild. The angry knight slammed the door and left, throwing goodbye that he was indifferent, if only the task was accepted as soon as possible. Rock advises the river not to sharpen the conflict, but to draw conclusions, because such clashes only increase tension and spoil the business atmosphere. However, he reads the conditions of the request carefully, thinking whether it is worth taking up the dangerous sewage for such a meager pay, and is looking for a better way out. The first steps in sewage are a caustic stench. The boys cover their nose with their palms, because somewhere in this rotten misery are used fiery stones. Rock imposes cleaning witchcraft on wet walls, greenish symbols flash, but it is not enough to gather undeniable evidence of theft. Brave Shannon moves further, hoping to come across unknown traces of thieves, and supplement the picture of the disappearance of stones with new details. The floor is slippery of silt and mold, so every step requires caution. Any carelessness can result in painful immersion and stinking. Trying to prove skill, the girl makes a bold downward, and the soul breaks down, and the body shakes sharply to dark water. The guy's lightning reaction saves the partner. The strong hands pick it up over the evil stream and gently put it on a solid area. Sincere Vera Shannon in his own strength causes a warm smile, but Rock remembers that self-confidence often makes adventurers. The eyes are found in half milk, reflecting the gratitude and silent reminder to stay together, because mutual support is stronger than any spell. The night is approaching, so the group decides to return to avoid risks in the dark and not to lose the opportunity to rest after a long mission. Rock proposes to visit hot springs, and this idea lights Shannon's eyes with the expectation of a pleasant warmth and well-deserved rest. The camp is waiting for a surprise. Viviverns will already rise almost 2 meters as Gorgulia with the Heaven Bird carefully train their flight. The boy is striking the ability of the stone Gorgulia to fly. It turns out that massive wings exist not for the sake of decor, but for real maneuvers. Proud of force, the monster promises to carry 2 passengers, and Rock asks to fly the outskirts of the fortress to check it in action. Going to Shannon, the guy shares the plan of a short hike to the thermal furnaces, and the idea of a joint flight accelerates her pulse. It is only necessary to give a sign how Gorgulia straightens his wings, and the couple is conveniently assigned, preparing for an unusual journey over the roofs of the night city. Under the wing of the monster, stone quarters are quickly removed, and a rare opportunity to see the world from above gives the year a sense of true grandeur. The shimmering of the lanterns forms a glow under them. Shannon shakes his breath, captured by a picture open before his eyes. Far streets resemble a rug of light, and Rock already thinks how to show this beauty to the rest of his comrades to share night inspiration. When the trip ends, the guy thanks Gargoyle for their efforts, because creating rarely has the opportunity to benefit from the fight. The monster rejoices in its own significance, realizing that he has proved the ability to help, and eagerly awaits new challenges next to his friends. Gargoyle may not worry about fighting. Rock appreciates her ability to wash, cook, and lift them into the sky, because it already makes a stone creature an indispensable ally. She dreams of removing Age, Old Seal, but afraid that after breaking the spell will lose herself and turn into an empty shell of stale stone. Rock offers to wait until the Wyver is strengthening, and then climbing the whole band into the sky. This idea likes Gargoyle even more than your favorite ice cream. The guy dreams of flying families that can pull the lacquer by a passenger. Gorgolas remembers the old friend of the great and strong. She advises to visit the stamp after the end of the current mission, because she believes that he will become another reliable wing in a variety. So far, it's time to return to the camp where hot springs are paired. They promise to wash away fatigue for a long day, and give a quiet night's enjoyment. Orange ants are the first to jump into warm water, lifting the fountain splash. Rock Locky and Fenrir are immersed in the way. Although the wolf cannot tolerate ordinary bath space, and the depth of sources allow him to hide underwater even a tail, Fenrir is grateful to the year that he once brought him out of a burning dungeon. Now he rewards the boy with a pleased growth of grazing, plunged into the heat almost with his head. Rock replies a fist and a paw, recognizing that without the help of a friend, a long time ago, was ashes. A short ritual-fastened devotion, no worse than solemn oaths. After bathing, Gargoyle shows a hidden cave with flickering stalactites. The company is shaking the breath from the unprecedented beauty of mineral glow. The next morning, Patra tries a mithril bib. Silver metal shines in the sun and amazingly fit the fragile status. Rock sincerely thanks Mateo for a valuable gift. The master tells that forging children's kiras for ants became an unexpected creative outlet for him. He used a minimum of material, so asks not to worry about the cost, but instead check the armor in the case to find out how convenient it is in battle. Mateo also aroned tiny chiras for all antarms, hoping that the brilliant shells would lift the morale of tiny warriors to heaven. Patra proudly shakes the antenna, promising to test armor in the next training, and Rock feels as the power of an unusual union of man and insects is increasing. Locky jokingly asks whether he gets a mithril collar. Mateo laughs and says that he will first have to learn obedience lessons with steel discipline. Friends are fun laughing and accept a new challenge, because a front meeting with a stamp and a possible threat that hunts on firestones. Rock plans the route through mountain passes, the vultures nest high above the clouds, and Gargoyle unfolds the map, drawing imaginary air tracks. In the warm twilight silence, the team puts sleeping. They are wrapped in the aroma of Sever. Rock reaches Matto-tight bag and explains that it is not a payment for the armor, but thanks for the skill and warm heart and hands of the blacksmith, which gives the metal of life. If the master refuses the money to go to children or cashless adventurers who will once need a strong shell for a dangerous raid with dark huts, Mateo for a moment is aware that he almost offended the boy with his pride, and slowly changes the forced smile to a genuine look full of gratitude. Rock jokes that the coins have remained since the time of participation in the ranking Team S, so the master smiles a hiding bag in a deep drawer and promises to use them wisely. While friends are waiting for the last work of Kiras, Koval suddenly calls them in the voice anxiety, as if the sledgehammer has crashed into a live forge. As soon as he saw a sharp blue glow by the window and realized that the firestones again disappeared, so the thief was still a warm like a blacksmith's roast. Rock Whistle calls Locky by instructing the wolf to grasp the fresh smell and bring them to the trail until the heat of the stones mixed with city sulfur and smoke. Other allies depart from the minsad of monks, remaining alert to explode the wings of claws and antlists at the first call. The guy saddles the wolf and the duo rushes with the paved streets, surprised by the agility of the thief that has not left the crashing of a glass of night guards. It is necessary to bring them to the cemetery, where in the pale moonlight the tomb of the damboard stands here that the smell breaks off, as if interrupted by an ancient sword. Rock inspects the plate, does not find scratches, and already jokes about ghosts that stole the warehouses until it interrupts a sharp whistle of wings in night silence. In front of them there is a celestial bird with an exorcism flower in the beak of gold dust, pouring on the ground, and awakens a barely tangible echo of the hidden charm. Behind the tombstone flashing a glow and carries out in the stone of the staircase, Rock guesses that this life magic is able to open the aisles and the basalt itself. The insidious illusion is almost confusing the seeker. He recognizes that he has not seen such power yet, and the tunnel is too narrow for a mighty lacquer. The wolf grunts but promises to rush to the first call, regardless of the crack. The guy touches his muzzle and quietly thanks for her unbreakable devotion. Rock creates a ball of light that accelerates the darkness of the stairs and assumes that somewhere below the enemy hid the stolen crystals, hoping to go unnoticed. Step by step, it is immersed in a narrow passage of air saturated with a hot mineral spirit, as if the earth itself is breathing with the fire of shakied artifacts. The ceiling expands unexpectedly by opening the hall where sparks are shimmering like fireflies in hot darkness, and the glare dance on the walls of black basalt. In the center, the crystalline altar blinks with fragments of empty stones. The heart of Rock beats in unison with the pulse of another's underground magic network. He compresses the amule of light and realizes that the true threat begins not when the stones are stolen, but when they are harvested for a dark ritual. A huge hall is opened under the tombstone, and the unknown voice is amazed at the appearance of an uninvited guest among the flickering of ancient magic and bone columns. The skeleton in an old dress stands with the dark. The cold lights in orbits make the Rock die, because it is a legendary wise in a gloomy likeness. She perceives a year for a high magician and sees the purpose of the visit slowly, while the guy tries to understand whether it is really a degenerate demord. The wings of the Lale, who immediately notices the weapon of the guest and is ready to protect her owner, radiating the threatening glow, are unexpectedly flashing nearby. Dambord is restraining Lala, making it clear that it is foolish to attack, because the real power lies in peace and wisdom. Rock explains that the pursuit of a thief that steals firestones and the smelling should lead to this underground crypt under the sacred grave. Hearing this, Lala is noticeably nervous because the suspicion falls on her, and has a hurry to apologize for possible misunderstandings, thwarting his own voice with excitement. It turns out that the fairy really searched for stones outside the dungeon, because she did not find any in the hall, and her unauthorized actions annoy the wise with more than the wrapped dust. Dambord acknowledges that she also needs these crystals, because only their throbbing energy holds the destroyed ritual which she had once made with demons. Rock tries to understand the cause, and Demorden recalls an ancient drunk duel with the owner of the demons, where strong wine and even stronger will have determined the winner. She even drank an abyss leader under the table, obtaining an agreement on termination of hostility. But it is almost impossible to overcome the consequences of that stones without stones. Even the strongest demonic creature could not compare it with its endurance, and victory at the expensive price was associated with the soul of the wise with unstable flames of flames. Therefore, every missing stone is mowed, and if the crystals collect in other people's hands, the ancient truce will destroy, releasing the old plague of war. Lala begs to understand their despair, because they are only trying to support the seal, and recognizes that theft could have caused a chain of dangerous, unpredictable. Rock thinks whether the fairy is really guilty, or the true thief is only using the situation to ignite a conflict between people and forgotten defenders. The light of his amulet shimmer, responding to emotions, and the guy feels that the choice is ahead, to help the wise to preserve the seal, or expose the mysterious manipulator. He proposes first to return the stolen stones to stabilize the ritual, and then find the culprit who stirred the old wounds of the peace treaty. Demord is barely noticeably nodding with a bonehead, agreeing to cooperate, and Magical Runes opens a secret exit into a narrow tunnel under the distant neighborhood. Lala, despite the blame, swear to accompany Rock and Lacquer to prove the sincerity of intentions, and her wings flashing a decisive blue hope. This is how a new search stage begins. A friendship with a skeleton, a fairy and a wolf against an unknown enemy played by the fire of ancient agreements and risks burning the world. The demons sighed because they did not ignite the war. The conflict broke out when people cut down the forests and ruined the hills, depriving the monster of natural living and security. The degraded monsters were forced to win the land to feed, but had no experience in agriculture, so the crops died at the root. Dalmord suggested teaching demons to sow and reap, demanding only the cessation of fighting, and both sides honestly fulfilled the promises. Satan tinged the stomach, the essence quenched the anger, and the war faded, as if the heat of the campfire, leaving the ashes of memories and a new chance of peaceful coexistence. Using silence, the wise man plunged into a diet, and then a clairvoyant was approached by a girl who sought knowledge and mentoring. The student was called Lydia. She did not shine with magical power, but conquered her hearts with unwavering kindness, honesty, and amazing social skill. Dalmord, who was lost in conversations without a mug of wine, became interested in the girl's skills of the girl, and opened her door to the alchemical secrets of the fields. Together, they created an extract that accelerated grain growth, and Lydia rejoiced because less hands on the field meant the faster end of starvation. Lydia's memories are pouring to the hidden treasures of the catacombs, whose energy could nourish future crops if it is safe to curb. She suggested that it was possible to attract a runny nose in the fields. The dead are not eaten or tired, so the plan seemed brilliant and profitable. Dalmord once experimented with necromantium and almost succeeded, and stopped, realizing the military danger of such force. The army of the lively laborers could shake the balance of the world forces, causing a new arms race and bloody battles for control of the dead. After the pause, Lydia stated that she did not see the threat, because in the peace years the famine does not bother the strong world, and a scientific breakthrough will give her an immortal name. She sought to surpass the mentor and enter the chronicles, so she considered agricultural experiments too modest for glory. Dalmord tried to restrain the ambitions of the student, realizing that the path to the grandeur, paved with the shadows of death, leads to tragedies and despair. Lydia was angry. I was convinced that the vertex of science is unattainable without risk, and therefore delaying, in her opinion, was equal to the betrayal of dreams. Her eyes flashed with a feverish glitter, promising to prove the world's own right, even if you have to break the calm of the dead. Silence hung between two generations of researchers. Their aspirations diverged, like rivers that flow into opposite seas and no longer merge. Rock and Lala was watching away, feeling the fragile thread of peace is pulled to the limit and can break from the slightest reckless word. Dalmord realized that it was time to choose, to stop dangerous experiments immediately, or allow them to break out and give up a new wave of war. Lydia disappeared, grabbing Dalmord's manuscript about necromantium, and the wise man spent years in vain, combing the empire to return the famous student. The searches ended with nothing, but its magic was absorbed into the soil and resurrected the bone's silhouette deep under the necropolis, where the ancient glow of runes flashes. Becoming a servant, Dalmord felt the infinite power and the need to restrain Manu, laying new halls under the grave of cold closed ones. To remain invisible, she covered the catacombs with illusions and resumed experiments by choosing her own body with the main test for testing. Dalmord sought to create plans for Lydia's possible plans, but without external energy, the bone body faded, demanding at least a crumb of mana. There were no magical stones, and the wise man resigned to a slow fading until a casual meeting with the fairy did not ignite forgotten hope. Lala, having come across a talking skeleton, first frightened, and quickly felt the benevolence of the wisdom and covered her with surprised questions. Noticing the curved wing of Lalai, Dalmord assured that the bend did not spoil the beauty, as well as the bones do not interfere with being an outstanding personality. The fairy admitted that others called it the monster, but the words of the wise were melted by the ancient complex and filled the heart with long-awaited confidence. Dalmord joked that if the wing was scary, her skeleton should generally cause mass panic and loss of consciousness. The girlfriends shared the stories. Lala remembered the legend of the great wise and realized that she was standing in front of her, came to life in the bone. The fairy sought true magic, and the figure was looking for an assistant to support the seal. So their goals merged like rivers flowing into one sea. Dalmord explained that she wanted to create an elixir of stabilization of incentive energy to save herself and hold back the ambitions of Lydia when she returns. Lala announced to help because she dreamed of proving other fairies. Even a broken wing can fly above the perfect when believing in her own strength. So in the silence of the catacomb was born a duo of skeleton and a fairy, united by fear of the death of the world and a common desire to save it. Dalmord taught Lala alchemy. Instead, the fairy brought the sequins of semolina, which partially replaced rare magical crystals. The underground laboratory garden has grown by flasks, fireflies, and manuscripts, written by a trembling hand of a bone wise. The idea of Lydia, who has stolen knowledge, gnawed Dalmord, and she prepared a protective spell capable of restraining the whole army of the undead. Lala promised to become a diplomat between people, demons, and fairies, so that the new war would not break through someone's thirst for glory. Despite the darkness of the depths, the catacombs had a sympathy of compassion. The skeleton and fairy with a broken wing cherished the dream of a world that is rescued from oblivion. This is exactly how both lonely souls became a real friendship that warmed them stronger than any flames and connected the hearts, even despite the difference between bones and wings. Upon learning of the rapid fading of the girlfriend, Lala decided to return the magic stone to continue its existence. And just because it explained Dalmord, she became an unspecified thief. The fairy confessed that it was she who stole a firestone and was ready to accept any punishment, just to save a newly made girlfriend from inevitable oblivion. Lala takes all the blame on herself, but Dalmord stops her, because she was ordered, so the responsibility for the crime should lie on her bone shoulders. The girlfriends argue. Lala insists that she acted independently, and assures the rock that is not familiar with Dalmord, believing that such a version will save the teacher from a strict court. Dalmord asks not to take risks for the sake of someone who will soon complete the path, but Lala refuses to retreat, because it is her first and invaluable girlfriend. Observing the scene, Rock realizes that magical theft can turn into a mortal sentence, and the heart shrinks from the thought of such a harsh payment. He is amazed at the choice of Dalmord, because she could escape. Instead, he stood honestly and seeks to redeem guilt, as well as Lala, which shares this burden. Summarizing, Rock captures the fact of shop robbery and violation of the order. Lala recognizes theft from the store, but she did not hear about the knights. The guy is surprised by their ignorance of the mass disappearance of stones from the treasury of knights, because the fairy brought only one crystal, and sincerely did not know about the scale of robbery. Analyzing the traces, Rock concludes that Lala used the last available stone, so the real big thief is still in the shade. This assumption is confirmed by Dalmord. All three are aware that another thrust is wired somewhere, perhaps one who seeks to break the seal and revive the ancient war. Suddenly, a loud hum and a crack arrives from the tunnel as if it were echoed under the vault, forcing friends to alertly listen to the echo of the approach. They run to the surface and see smoky columns above the capital. The purple tongues of the flames lick the roofs, and distant cries are heard through the night wind. Without spending time, Rock jumps on his back lacquer and rushes to the city gate, hoping to quench chaos until the flames will absorb all the stone labyrinth of the streets. Dalmord coughs with bone dust and asks to take it, because despite the weakness, she knows old spells that can protect the inhabitants from the greatest fears. The streets of the capital are swollen by spooky monsters. People in a panic run to the western gate, where, like a lighthouse, the sword of a lone warrior shines. The stranger coordinates the flow of refugees, sending them to a safe passage, and every gesture cuts the darkness with sharp confidence and gives hope in the hearts of fugitives. He cuts another monster in one sweeping blow. Sparks of blood flashes in the air, then erased flames, leaving only dark spots on the pavement. Rock realizes that he was a new ally or a formidable rival, and squeezes the sword's arms, is ready to unite the forces or take the challenge as soon as their views cross. The knight has a hard time breathed in the smoke of the capital, trying to even out his breath after lightning rescue. The next monster escaped from the flame, knocked it down, and the stones of the paving stones cracked under the beastie body. Suddenly, the guild administrator with a giant hammer appeared, rejected the monster and helped the boy get up, accepting her gratitude. Rock with lacquers rushed to the square, jumped on a high balustrade near the river, and the first thing Rock did, feverishly asked about the situation. It turned out that the trophy monster of the night turned into a runny nose and arranged a bloody bacchanalia in the middle of the city. When the knights took the corpses of monsters themselves, many adventurers left the capital, so the defenders were catastrophically lacking. Guild sent a call to neighboring countries, and reinforcements on the road, and the streets are already boiling from the onslaught of unoily predators. While Rock was collecting data, the monster surrounded the girl. The river rushed to help, breaking the ring of enemies with the blow of its meteoric hammer. Dalmord explained that the air of the undead comes from the records of Lydia, which used fiery stones as nuclei that feed the decomposed Manu. Thus, Lydia stands on mass theft of crystals, and completed the forbidden experiments, pumped bodies with an endless heat. Rock, without unnecessary explanations, caused all his monsters except Vivivert, and ordered the destruction of Abomination, passing the command to the elders. But he fell silent, noticing the orca with a distorted sign of Lydia on his shoulders, realizing that it was only an advanced wave of her dark horde. Dalmord unfolded the magic of the hellish diamond. The burning runes illuminated the night, and the present froze, impressed with the greatness of her strength. Rock introduced a new ally and fair Lala to friends, emphasizing that despite the bone likeness, Dalmord is a reliable associate. However, the wise man barely kept the skull exhausted by the origins of the mana, and acutely needed pure crystals, so as not to crumble on powder. Patra quickly handed a dozen glowing stones, their world caught in empty sockets, filling the skeleton with a living fire. Dalmord said she would be able to raise the sacred barrier over the kingdom, and burn the runny nose with a wave of light as soon as the ritual. It takes time to spell, so Rock promised to restrain the attacks and the team scattered the streets, preparing for a decisive battle. Lala was spreading over the roofs, pouring the faik dust that blinded the enemies, and Fenrir with ants cut the monsters in narrow lanes. Under the roar of the Dalmord battle, runes in the sky, and the capital was waiting for dawn, which would show if it would stand against the Night of the Inanimate. Rock, along with Fenrir, Gargoyle, and orange ants, mercilessly cut the runny nose. Blades and claws flash in the dark, and the area is covered with sparks and fragments of bones of the fallen monsters. The ants wring the shells from grip, but Rock warns of danger because the dead body begins to move, restoring broken joints with magical flames. It turns out that even Shannon and experienced adventurers cannot produce such creatures, because only the families, endowed with the sacred spark of the year, are capable of destroying the ominous nucleus. The guy asks Shannon to pass on all defenders in order to support his beasts, so that every sword blow to light with light and burns the rotten manu from the lively meat. The special skill of the year adds to the attacks of allies of holiness, and the blades, spears, and fists leave in the body of the undead bright scars that do not allow the enemy to be resurrected. There is a real chance of winning the horizon. Adventurers work side by side with the families, and together they break the monster carcasses until they turn into cold ash. Most of the mold has already disappeared in bluish gunpowder, and a few more waves are approaching from the side streets, roaring and wrapping the fragments of the gates with dogs. At this point, the Order of the Night arrives in the capital, and Rock asks why the help has been delayed. But the Knights of Nights are silent as if it were a puppet. The commander looks glass. In the light of the torches, the pupils seem empty. Inside them, the alarm purple light. Suddenly, the knights produce a volley of arrows, but Fenrir rushes forward, changes the texture of the wool with the dragon scales and becomes a live shield, knocking down the hail of the tips. The magical hardening of wolf fur reflects steel, and the arrows fall on the pavement, leaving only a few scratches on a shiny broth shell. Rock is surprised to seek explanations, because the knights should be allies, but their faces distort the same void that screams about someone else's control. Noticing the purple glow in the captain's eyes, he realizes that the detachment has fallen under someone else's will, and immediately hears the team to destroy everyone in front of him. Having made the decision not to cause fatal wounds, Rock orders to stun enemies, and Gargoyle lifts a storm that throws the knights with a wave of compressed wind. However, fascinated warriors rise as if jaws have squeezed, and again take on bows, demonstrating inanimate endurance against storms. The guy picks up his sword. The hot blade is buzzing in the air when he is preparing to meet another pressure, and at the same time not to cripple any lost knight. Behind the sudden appears Miss with the sword, preparing to cut off the nearest enemy, and his blow is intercepted by Patra, stunning the enemy with a wooden staff. The anthill the queen warns that it is impossible to lose vigilance, because any mistake will open the hole in defense and allow the dark force to break through to civilians. Rock catches Lee's gaze. It rages in sadness and determination. Together they realize that they should remove the curse, not cut their heads, otherwise the rescued bodies will remain empty shells. Above the roofs, the roar of the ritual storm of the Dalmord, the sacred runes shine with gold, and the knights bow in a moment of rest, between life and the threat that breathes them in the back. A powerful slap raised sparks of pain. Mr. holds on his cheek, and Rock is awesome that the knight has already faded the demonic in his gaze. Having examined the team, Rock notices how the rest of the warriors slowly returns clarity, so magical blows are not enough. A solid physical repel is needed to knock down the magic. He quickly explains the plan, to stun captive magic with simple strokes, to allow them to master the body and return the will until the situation has intensified. The river is still lost in chaos, but Rock briefly teaches the essence. The capital is attacked by the army of the undead, and the Order of the Night has been washed with consciousness with an unknown enemy. When Rock calls on the knights to evacuate peaceful, Mr. refuses. His honor requires to fight on the front line and to punish creatures that are offended by people. In the heat of heroism, he rushes into a huge orc, drives the sword into his back, and the blade leaves a little scratch, and the monster corresponds to a blow that rejects the knight. Measle flies to the pavement. The orc lifts heavy fists, is ready to crush the rage, and the crowd fades, watching the devastating attempt. The jump between the enemy and the wounded becomes Patra, the queen of the ants, takes a kier of a sistrobial stroke and does not give an angry animal to crush the knight. Rock rushes to Patra, realizing that even for a rank warrior, a duel pellets can become fatal, and launch a pair of daggers to turn away the soap. The blades cut the air, forcing the orca to retreat, but it crosses the palms of your head, gaining force for a devastating attack from top to bottom. Until the Patra has managed to navigate, the orc with a roar cuts his hands into the ground, causing a stone wave that cracks the pavement and flies off. The broken stones are poured in hail, creating an additional threat to the wounded knights who try to get up after a brief clarification of consciousness. Rock rolls the pattern aside, reflecting the fragments of the blades. The heart feels the weight of responsibility. Every step decides who will survive among the chaos. Fenrir grows by increasing his paws to pull the orc and give warriors a break, and ants form a defensive ring around the missile. Gargoyle rises into the air, preparing to throw away the next gust of storm to knock the giant from the feet and clear the space for the counterattack. The punch of the orc causes the underground hum, and the light from the barrier dalmord in the sky reminds that time is playing against the undead. You need to stay a little longer. Shannon coordinates adventurers. Some blaze the enchanted knights, others cover civilians, turning chaos into a managed salvation. Rock sees how a red glare is flashing again in the eyes of several soldiers, which means that Lydia will not release control without a fight, so the stunning plan must continue. Patra, girdled cracks in the shell, rises, squeezes staff and prepares for revenge, because the retreat will mean the death of defenseless behind. The pavement groans from the next collision, and only the task is ahead. Keep the pressure, break the spells, and wait for the light of the darkness of the undead on the powder. The Ogre collapses huge fists, the pavement cracks, the earth flies, the place where Patra just stands turns into a stone clutter. Rock looks at the roar, sees the monster's stone palms in the same place, and the heart shrinks with horror. In memory, a smiling queen of ants, shared training, warm embrace, and barbed fear squeezes the throat. The guy falls around among the debris, the voice breaks from despair. The name of Patra sharply creates the suffocating powder of the bloody battle. Suddenly, a creature descends from the sky, holds the pattern in the mouth. Shreds of wings tremble under moonlight. Fenrir turns the ear to reality, because the queen is alive, albeit in tears, but firmly clamped between fangs. She was rescued by her young Vivavert. The dragonflies have grown so fast that they now rise over the field of the battle of languages, electric lightning. Gargoyle explains that for dragons rapid growth is familiar. Rock jokes that it is a merit of his unsurpassed talent of animal, thanksgiving to the winged babies, because their rapid throw leaving Ogre with empty hands, giving hope to exhausted defends. Shannon is reminiscent of a crowd of warriors, which is still raging behind his backs, and Rock is in a hurry gives Patria a bottle of thick healing elixir. The drops fall on the shell, the girl feels a rush, immediately orders the ants to jump on the back of Vivavert and fly into the celestial bench. A crowd of orange warriors turns into a detachment of tiny knights, rushing the sky with shiny spears, cutting night smoke. The final cleaning of the undead begins. The field is filled with the roar of the wings, the singing of steel, and the crackling of the broken bones of the dead army. Rock feels a foreign presence behind his back, evades the sudden swing of the sword. The blade whistles into the hair, pouring sparks. The attacker is Marcus, obsessed with his own ambitions. The commander is revealed by the very fact of the existence of a year on his way to the power of the Order. Controlled hatred burns in the eyes of the knight. Today he will destroy the adventurers and their guild, erasing them from the memory of the Sword of Dark Glory. Marcus rushes forward, cuts a series of sharp blows, rock slides with paving, catching a moment for counterattack, and at the same time, not kill the enemy. The unexpected duel of the two aces unfolds against the background of the burning capital. Each blow echoes thunder on a hot night and sparks. Patra and anthill riders circling over them, looking for a chance to intervene, but Rock a gesture orders not to interfere in order to preserve their reserve. It is right now the fate of the Order of the Night, to free the night from the curse or make it fall with a dark banner and extinct conscience. Marcus struck him with his leg into his stomach, and then threw a rock back like a worthless bag. His power was striking. He shouted and tried to pull Marcus into the center of battle. Marcus thought that the guy really considers them desirable guests. Surprisingly, wherever they go, Titus is always nearby as the chief adventurer. Marcus is also the king of the Night Order, and his authority has no right to undermine. Although others would treat him, he believes that the country needs only one order. Rock, twisting with pain near the wall, tries to stop this crazy game. If the boys are interfering, Marcus will not stop. He is ready to destroy them. Again rushes to the attack on the year. Suddenly the lacquer goes and the tail knocks Marcus off his feet, demanding to stop the noise. Marcus is hard to get on the boxes, and the wolf is dissatisfied. He has just been awakened. Shannon is worried about the state of the year. He replies that he is ordering but worried about Marcus. He begins to move and mutilate something. suspiciously and brilliant at the same time. Rock is surprised. Where exactly did the tail blow? The behavior of the captain has become suspicious. Marcus slowly, sinfully smiles as if something else has woke up in it. He considers stupid to joke in such a situation. But adventurers never worry about anything. Its tone changes sharply. Rock looks at him suspicion and asks, "Who is now in Marcus's body?" In response, a vicious look and angry confession. Lydia, the first student of the legendary sage Demorta, the heir to his will. Rock wants to know what she wants. Lydia squeezes his fists and promises to answer before he destroys it. She strives for the world to learn about her studies of the treasurer of the undead. For this purpose, the country will be sacrificed. But even the death of the boys will not stop it. Their bodies will serve further. It's not her idea. Demorta was the first to start the study, but Lydia finished him, so he considers his work. Rock suggested that it was Lydia who stole burning stones, but she just gotten. She liked that the guy was so in the topic. Everything was simple. She seized the body of the head of the Order of the Night and stole them. In search of the wine, used it as a puppet. And on this sweet note, Lydia decided to finish the conversation. She ordered the knights and the undead to destroy everything. Ares laughed, but something went wrong. She did not understand why no one had died yet. The warriors had to be destroyed. But the runny nose lay unconscious. Shannon wondered where Lydia's body really was. The smell of lacquers will not be able to find it. At this point, someone approached and apologized. It was a Daemort. She was already ready to destroy each of the undead, but they have long been neutralized. She looked silently at a bunch of breathless bodies. She sat down and hugged her knees, tired and sad. All I wanted was a mug of beer. Rock brought to her timidly, but now it was more important to find the right path. Of course, Demorta knew where to look for Lydia, and she was about to show them. She began to reassure them. Do not worry, do not worry. But these words were wrapped, as if her consciousness was stuck in an endless repetition. The boys stood by the mysterious tower, under the glow of the moon, surrounded by silence. They were ready to enter Lydia. Rock ordered everyone but Shannon and Patrick to remain in the Garden of Monsters. He went to massive doors himself. Demorta reported that the entrance was not here. She used male magic. They opened the passage hidden in front of them. The stairs were deep underground. The boys started the descent. A spooky rot was in the air. Demorta did not understand how Lydia lived for over 100 years. Her body had to be in a terrible state. And suddenly a young girl with a book in her hands appeared in front of them. Seeing the guests, she slowly turned. She was surprised that they were able to get so far. Outside, they had to stop the army of the undead. How they managed to break through does not fit in their heads. Rock calmly explained that they had already defeated everyone, and the Order of the Night was finally defeated. Lydia only crumbled. She considered such words a bad joke. Demorta greeted with Lydia, but she did not recognize her. She claimed that she never created such a story without prejudice. In order to freshen her memory, Demorta caused a hellish diamond by a long-standing spell. Lydia immediately responded with the magic of the water dragon. His rick drowned and extinguished the flames. Finally, Lydia realized that she was standing with Demorta, and a rage boiled inside her. She believed that Demorta became the cold only to prevent her glory. But only she shakes her head. With the best nature of Lydia could achieve much more. The angry Lydia releases the magic of eternal darkness against Daemort. The same, using the power of the Dark Knight. Even if Lydia and Avid, she remains a baby. Their magic is faced, lifting a flurry of energy. The boys watch in surprise. The forces seem equal. But Lydia is crazy. She has become stronger than Demorta's death. Patrick is ready to intervene. At this point, the Queen of the Ants appears. She goes rapidly to Lydia. He nods, and beats Lydia directly into his face, and falls on the floor. So dishonestly, with everyone to fight themselves. Patra, looking at her with contempt, was quietly giggling. She almost died because of Lydia. For the first time, Rock saw her so evil. In response, Lydia exploded even more anger. She created many shadow copies of herself. The sinister smile appeared on her face. She was sure that no one would find where real. But Patrick hit the rod of true Lydia. Illusions do not act on the Queen of Ants. She does not perceive Lydia so much that it easily distinguishes it from all copies. Patra with anger states that if Lydia die, Dad will hurt. She will not allow her father to miss. But Lydia does not understand what it is about. Rock looked at the pattern with anxiety. She wanted to rush to Lydia again, but Demorta stopped her. Having apologized, Demorta asked to leave Lydia. She wanted to deal with her. Patra smiled and retreated. Demorta said coldly, Lydia was already over. They lived too long. She began to spell. It was sacred magic. Everything looked as if she wanted to destroy herself with the enemy. Rock and Shannon were shocked. There will be no trace from holy magic, even the undead. But this is the only way to destroy all evil. Demorta hinted that Lydia should be taken with him. Pixie flew to Demorta rapidly. She didn't want to lose her. She was happy that she was able to meet her. The flash of light filled the space. At this point, Rock used magic, directing it simply. A hole was formed in Lydia's chest. She fell to the floor. She could not understand how such magic was used without any transformation. Demorta apologized. It was not necessary to risk yourself for the sake of someone like a liquid. Lydia did not expect to fight such a strong magician. A little more, and she would defeat Demort. Finally, she promised to return, even more powerful. But Demorta understood that it was only a shadow of Lydia, not her real life. It didn't make sense to sacrifice for such an illusion. She herself unexpectedly perceived the situation too emotionally. Rock, meanwhile, slept peacefully. Lala flew to her, hugged and gladly thanked the heavens. She was happy that Demorta did not disappear. Demorta apologized that Pixie was worried. But soon you will have to say goodbye. Magical stones have ended and they cannot use stolen. It's even good. Lala suggested that Rock may have shared with them. But Demorta does not want to bother him anymore. Pixie does not want to say goodbye at all. And in Brock, meanwhile, Rock reached out to Demorta and suggested that her be a partner. If she agrees, she will be able to use as many magical stones freely as he wants. In addition, she still had to complete the case with Lydia. Shannon doubted. Should a member of the dark race be tamed? But Rock was convinced that only he possesses sacred magic. In the worst case, it can destroy it. Demorta was asked directly. She agreed to such risks, but she smiled. Even if there is at least a crumb of hope, she is ready to accept this agreement. The voice said from above, "The Queen of Darkness wants to become a friend of the year, but there is one condition. Due to belonging to the dark race, its dark magic will significantly weaken. But disappearance is no longer threatened. Demorta accepts these conditions. She trusts the year. He begins the spell. The Queen of Darkness passes the ritual and becomes his sacred beast. From now on, she is his partner. Many new options have emerged before the year. He even decided to do salt, and chose the small sea. The Garden of Monsters is expanding. Rock looked back on Lala, thinking about what would happen to her. But Pixie was already glowing with joy. Now she is the servant of the Queen of Darkness, and at the same time, she became a partner of Rock. The guy laughed. She would be able to answer his questions. At this point, the human form of Demorta turned to him. She thanked the year and asked to take care of her. Rock smiled gently in response. This meeting was also important for him. The detachment returned to the capital. The residents disassembled the fragments of the destroyed road. Rock ordered the boys to help with the reconstruction of the city. He went to the guild himself to complete the report on the task. In the guild, he immediately came across Rico. Together, they went to the office where Titus and Marcus were already waiting, silent, with hands crossed on their chest. The atmosphere in the room became tense. The meeting promised to be serious. The guests sat opposite each other at the table. Rock wondered what was happening. Rico congratulated the beasts, although the atmosphere was depressing. The air in the room was weighted every minute. Marcus and Guildmaster Tyrone sat at the table. Rock remembered how they recently shouted at each other, so it was difficult to believe in this silence. He tried to find out in Rico what was happening. Rico tries to convince the year that everything is fine, but they knock on the door. Although Rico advises not to open, Rock still hesitantly opens. Before him stands Marcus, who immediately apologizes that he was worried about Rock, despite his employment. He knees and apologizes sincerely. He almost crippled Rock because of his own incompetence. The Rock is stunned. Everything is behind. Asks the captain to raise his head. I wonder what happened. Marcus admits. She does not remember anything. He believes that it all started half a year ago, after meeting with a girl named L.A. During the training, she appeared herself. And although it was for the first time, Marcus felt her life. In the air, a sweet aroma was launched. It may have been a potion or a spell that affected it. She summoned the rest of the knights and ordered the collecting the bodies of strong monsters for the development of the country. She called adventurers an obstacle, and Titus as a source of evil. The Order believed her. Since then, they have forcefully selected the bodies of powerful monsters and plan to expel all adventurers from the country. Because of this, Marcus apologizes to Titus and the entire guild. He genuinely repents. Titus and Rock are silent. Titus does not believe the eyes. The proud Marcus bowed his head in front of him. Guildmaster got up. He apologizes to knights. He reached out to Marcus. He promised that he would do his best to reassure adventurers. He proposed to combine forces to rebuild. Marcus agreed. He hopes for fruitful cooperation. Men shook their hands. From now on, the Order of the Night will work side by side with the Guild. Guild also began the search for Lydia, but it should be more difficult to find it. As a leader of the Order, Marcus is waiting for responsibility. But so far, the king has decided to focus on the restoration of the city. It was then that another voice with bad news came. Bad news. It turned out that the same former hero, a guy, fled. It happened during a clash with the undead, and no one knew if it was deliberate. The month has passed, and here again, joyful exclamations were heard over the sea. Rock, along with his partners, was resting near the water. The boys sunbathe and enjoy the silence. Shannon was delighted. The sea fascinated her. Rock watched her with a gentle surprise. He remembered what she was at the first meeting. Now it has become bolder and more acute in the tongue. There was undoubtedly the merit of the year in all this. Shannon sincerely thanked him for salvation. The guy was confused, but here the lackey wounded that he interrupted, and asked, for what purpose did they here at sea? All the last days they have worked on the reconstruction of the city. Thanks to Patry and others, everything went well. So the change of the situation was just appropriate. They all deserved a little rest, and a good barbecue. Patra didn't even know what it was. Rock explained. BBQ is when meat and vegetables are cooked. He suggested eating together. Patra loves kebabs and dreams that they are always together. Talking about the serious will have time, and now it's time to enjoy delicious food. The appetite boys attacked meat and vegetables. Meanwhile, the bird sat on the head of the year. He recalled that he still did not give her a name. From the joke he offered the name Yaktor. The bird responded violently, screamed, and began to wave her wings. The barbecue accurately affects his humor. Rock began to sort through the names of Japanese chicken dishes. The bird was outraged. She did not like the following options. Then the guy offered a completely different name. Villages. And here the bird waved her wings cheerfully. It appealed to her. From that moment on, it was called Villages. A girl with a plate came to the year. Meat was surprisingly soft and delicious. He did not immediately understand who it was. But in front of him stood Da Morta, in the form of a skeleton. But they are by the sea. So it used the illusion and took a human form. Thanks to magical stones, she could even walk the city now. But how does she eat if her body is an illusion and she is a solid frame? In such moments, you should not delve into the details. It is better to be able to catch the mood. Lala asked Rock about his sauce. He prepared special, from onions, ginger, and apples. The aroma was thin and charming. Pixie never tasted anything like that, and sincerely rejoiced that they met a year. Lala was eagerly waiting for new dishes from him. Pixie began to get bored, so Rock decided to have a little snack. The partners had fun on the beach. The girls played the ball, and orange ants were happy to clap in the water, which she raised a morta with her magic. Rock eagerly caught meat and then sat on a stone and threw a fishing rod. Loki became nearby. The wolf wondered what he was doing. Rock explained that if you hang a hook with a bait on the thread, the fish will burn and swallow it. Loki became interested and wanted to try. He lowered his tail into the water, using it as a fishing rod. There was no bait. The wolf believed that his fluffy tail and so attractive. The boys were sitting on the shore waiting for a pecking. It was calm and nice outside. Sometimes you just have to relax. Loki curled with a ball, and Rock plunged into his thoughts. Such moments are priceless. Suddenly something was moved near the varnish. He seems to catch something. You need to pull the tail faster. The wolf dragged the tail sharply. Something was hanging at his end. Rock's eyes were rounded. He tried to see. It was a small creature that seems to fall in love with a fluffy tail. Before them was Mermaid. Both Rock and Lackers were shocked. The creature grabbed the wolf's tail and was not going to release. They didn't know what to do. The mermaid looked harmless. The boys decided to bring her back to the sea. Loki began to twist the tail in different directions, but the mermaid was not behind. She clearly enjoyed a soft tail. But Loki did not give up, carefully waving it, trying to lose it. Fenrir intervened here, used magic and blinded the mermaid. Thanks to this, the lacker finally was able to throw it back into the water. Other partners ran out. They heard loud sound and worried. Rock tried to reassure them, and just at this moment, the mermaid jumped out of the sea again, and with a predatory glitter in her eyes rushed to the fluffy tail of the lacker. The mermaid jumped out of the water again and poured on the tail of the lacker. The wolf was clearly dissatisfied. Shannon was surprised to see her. This time, Lakey promised not to hold back, but the mermaid suddenly stopped. She assured that she was not suspicious of a creature. She simply could not resist the desire to touch this fluffy happiness. The wolf used magic again and threw it back into the sea. The boys were worried. All this looked suspicious, but the mermaid appeared on the surface again, and again headed to the fluffy tail. She clung to his paws. Laki appealed to the ear. He thought about how to act, and then Demorda raised her hand, asking for permission to intervene. She said the spell, and a large magical sphere appeared in the sky. Demorda offered to mermaids a choice: either stay and turn into fried fish, or return to the sea with honor. The mermaids were shocked. They were waiting for another from terrestrial residents. They wanted to be forcibly divorced. The mermaid was not going to give up. She called Levi. From the depths of the sea, a giant naval dragon rose. Everyone was surprised. It was the most powerful creature of the entire sea kingdom. The mermaid proudly introduced Leviathan as the king of the ocean and ordered to demonstrate his power. Leviathan had coughed, nodded, and introduced politely. He was pleased to meet the year. Shannon and Rock were confused by the unexpectedly polite tone. They greeted carefully. The mermaid did not understand what was happening. She wanted Leviathan to fight with terrestrial, because otherwise he would not be able to be with a furry. But the Sea King emphasized, "It is just worth talking." The mermaid was angry. In her opinion, with terrestrial can be made only through a fight. Leviathan was amazed, but she persuaded the Sea King to show a little. He reluctantly agreed. Leviathan began to use magic. The water began to twist in a few ears. The jet of water climbed up. It was a storm of a water dragon in a soft form. The magic of the dragon was very powerful, almost like Fenrir. But Demorta seemed to be a magical spectacle. Demorta, in the form of a skeleton, decided to show her true strength. She was preparing to call the spirits of Antigua with the help of illusory magic. Seeing her, Leviathan was frightened and quickly turned back to the sea. It turned out that the Sea King was afraid of monks and ghosts. The mermaid decided that Demorta did it intentionally, knowing his fear. But no one guessed it. But it didn't matter. The mermaid acknowledged her defeat and suggested becoming friends. But Rock politely refused. She did not understand the refusal, because they were already exchanging blows, and this, in her opinion, made them comrades. Rock screamed that it doesn't work so much. The mermaid was discontinued. If it goes on, there will be no one who she can ask for help in a visit to the village. Rock asked in surprise, "What else is the village?" The mermaid hinted that he already had Gorgulia out and even orange hair. She explained that the village of Rusalok had troubled, and she came to ask for help. They still did not understand what the danger was. The mermaid lowered her head. She hesitated, not knowing how to express the essence correctly. And then Leviathan appeared from the water again. He asked for permission to explain himself. The king said that there was a village of Rusalov at the bottom of the sea. 3 days ago, he was attacked by fishermen. These are creatures, half people, half fish, squid or sharks. But their fish traits prevail. The mermaids, on the contrary, dominate human traits, so they are different species. For 100 years the village lived in peace. But because of this, almost no one had combat experience. Sudden attacks have been captured by a sudden attack. Leviathan should have been their guard, but disgraced, admitted that he was not very strong in battles. The mermaid May was not in the village at the time, so she remained intact. She went for help to the ground. Leviathan also joined the request, asked them to help. Rock scratched the nape of the nape. The story is touching, but how should they fight underwater if they cannot breathe? Leviathan reassured his doubts. He brought with him airgrass. All you have to do is eat it, and you can breathe underwater. Pressure will also be a threat. Rock did not know that such a plant existed at all. It turned out that it can be collected only in the village of Mermaid. If Rock helps to liberate the village of Mermaid, it will be able to pick up as much airgrass as he wants. However, the guy immediately said that he could not be dangerous. But Patra sincerely asked to help. Shannon also joined the request, and the security guard nodded silently. They were not mind. If everyone is serious, then they are ready to go together. May was glad that the boys agreed to help. Happy, she thought she would now be able to hug the tail of the lacquer as much as you like. But it was worth it to touch, as the wolf immediately dropped her. The boys, standing on the shore, looked into the water from where she flew. Now their decision was final. They will help the mermaid. Everyone dived underwater. Rock felt the effect of airgrass with surprise. He could breathe. The pressure did not interfere at all. Only moving was a little harder. It is likely that it will be difficult to fight underwater, but at that moment the wind swept by him, beautiful and fast. Even underwater, these creatures were able to wave their wings. Gargoyle moved rapidly due to windy acceleration. Rock decided to try too, focused and gave himself a move. Unfortunately, the lacquer was unable to master swimming. It was too much for the wolf. All but Gargoyle were temporarily sent to the Garden of the Monsters by Raoul's decision. The boys sailed to the cave that led to the village of Rusalok. May sailed the first, others tried not to keep up. Rock dived into the cave, and there he was struck by something bright. Before him opened the real underwater village of Rusalok. It was wrapped in special magic, which is not visible from the outside. The human leg has not stepped here for hundreds of years. According to May, Rock should consider this honor. But the boys did not have time to look at how Leviathan wrapped their tail. He warned. Quietly, someone was approaching. In the water, a creature with the body and head of the shark circled, but with hands and feet, a real predator. It was a fisherman, one of the patrolmen. Other mermaids are likely to be held in the Queen Castle in the center of the village. Leviathan saw them there when they ran. Rock suggested attacking his forehead, but the Sea King had a better idea. To use a secret tunnel to the castle. It took a conductor to get it, but the mermaid May suddenly did not happen. But soon she appeared from the cave and shouted angrily the fisherman to immediately free everyone and meet her. May even boasted that she had exchanged strikes with the year. But the fisherman did not listen to. He immediately rushed at her, angry that her intervention prevented their plans. Everything could end tragically, but Leviathan arrived on time and picked up May, asking what she was doing. The mermaid exclaimed that she was not going to act as if a coward. However, there was no time for conversations. Another fisherman was pulled from his back, and Rock realized that they were discovered. Once yes, you have to break! The boys were preparing for battle. The fisherman was fast. Rock did not keep up with him underwater. Gargoyle came to the rescue. The guy jumped on her back, and with the help of the magic of the wind, they rushed forward. Gargoyle shouted, "Attack!" Rock hit the fish with his fist in his head. He fell. Everyone was happy, because there were 6 more ahead. But the first enemy was already rising. The blow did not work properly. The fisherman got up and roared from rage. He began to swing around the guys rapidly. Rock quickly assessed the situation and advised Gargoyle to move 50 centimeters to the right. The fisherman flew by the fierce speed. Gargoyle did not understand how possible. The next maneuver is 70 centimeters to the left. And again the enemy was smeared. His movements were repeated again and again. Rock noticed something strange in his eyes. They resembled the views of the knights who came under hypnosis. He did not know who did it, but for sure, the enemy could not focus. And that meant that guys could counterattack effectively. Gargoyle sharply went diagonally by 3 meters on the left. Having made a jerk to the left, Rock evaded the attack and jumped directly into the fishing. He shouted to Leviathan to connect the enemy by the tentacles. The Sea King immediately fulfilled the order. The tentacles were removable. The boys tied the fishery to the rock. He could not see and speak. Leviathan remembered that once with these creatures could be properly communicated. Who was behind it? The boys should hurry and save others. They managed to neutralize a few more fishermen. These were the guards, those who were once in the village. No one expected them to be so little. May shouted at Leviathan. He turned out, he tied her. But intentionally. If she acted on her own, there would be more problems. He solved it. Having released, May hurried to other mermaids. They were happy to see her alive. One of them rushed to hug her with tears in her eyes. Rock paid attention. The tears of the mermaid crystallized into shiny drops. These were pearl tears, special gems that appear in mermaids with strong magic during strong emotions. The mermaid returned to the year and introduced itself. Madeleine, a maid of the queen. She is sincerely grateful to the boys for salvation. Rock was a little shot. Not everyone was released. The queen and many mermaids are still captured in the village of Reboluda, and this place was only a temporary camp. So it is impossible to delay. It's time to go to the rest. But Madeleine stopped him and stretched a small object. Having accepted the gift, Rock understood. It was a pearl. The mermaid presented it on behalf of all the villagers as a sign of gratitude. But she had another little request. Rock immediately agreed to help. The next stop is the village of Ryboludov. There were too many enemies. Looking around, Rock noticed something. It was a ship, human. What does he do here among fishermen? A man stood on the deck. He talked to the fishing, about something too suspicious. The fisherman, who was told by a man, seemed to be able to talk. Maybe it was their leader. Shannon called Rock and pointed up. A girl with her mouth in her hands sat in the cage. She was kept like a captive. Everything indicated that the actions of the fishermen were people. Rock suggested that they trade in mermaids. Zarolov shock, mermaid cell. The boys could not believe their eyes. The ship has sailed. It is necessary to act immediately. Leviathan promised to help. If some of the captives remained on the ship, it is better to follow him to the secret base, and then release everyone at once, along with the rest of the mermaids. Rock called a bird of villages and ordered her secret to follow the ship to find his hiding place. The bird listened carefully to the order and flew. But in addition, you need to save those who are kept in the village of Rybaludov. The released mermaids arrived and asked for permission to take care of the security. Last time the attack was unexpected, but now they are ready for battle. This is their own question of honor, and they seek to understand themselves. But even with the desire, fisherman is too much, and it is dangerous. Demorta Lackers pulled out a bracelet and pointed to it. That is why, they say, mermaids have to trust the boys' battle. Laki said well that they came up with a monster in the Garden of Monsters, and he was no longer suffering to show the result. Rock was not mind, but doubted. This is a very serious task. Demorta and Laki asked him to trust. He agreed, because he believed in them. But Madeline sailed closer. She doubted that the boys would be able to do everything themselves. Leviathan assured her. These two, perhaps even stronger than the Sea King. The mermaid couldn't believe it. She still did not understand who all these strange guys were. It's time to go. Laki and Demorta went to guard. As soon as they stepped on the ground, guards were instantly gathered around. Demorta has announced loudly, "Now you will see the true strength of our tandem." Laki activated the spell. Magical circles were formed around. The air began to tremble. Laki directed powerful energy around him. Magical circles began to glow brighter. Demorta connected to the spell. She used the magic of expansion, strengthening the power of the wolf. The sea parted, exposing the earth underwater. It was a scene worthy of legends. The fishermen fell, losing power. Their movements slowed down. It was a chance of guys. You need to quickly neutralize guard. But Rock noticed that even mermaids were stationary. Like fishing, they could not act without water. So Rock ordered everyone who was able to move to help others. The guy rolled his sleeves and got into business, twisting one fishing after another. And here the cave came out another, evil and dangerous. He was surprised to speak. He asked in surprise what was happening here. Rock suggested that it was a leader. He demanded to release the captive mermaids immediately, but he just wandered. Without understanding the whole situation, he got a strange sphere and smiled ominously. Squeezing the sphere, the fisherman ordered all his subordinates to reveal his power and destroy enemies. Their bodies broke out with energy, and they went on the attack again, now even stronger. But the lacquer grabbed one of them and easily threw away. They really became stronger, but moved slowly. The real threat was no longer. Seeing this, the leader ordered him to pass all the magic and the power of the fisherman. His body began to increase in his eyes. It grew to a giant size, a real sea titanium. Exclaiming that his speed also increased several times, he boasted the magical sphere. As long as it is, he is invincible. Rock calmly asked what the sphere was. The leader was ready to show her strength. But suddenly, Patra in her outburst quickly flew past and graciously grabbed the sphere from his hands. The fisherman did not understand what had happened until he turned. The sphere was already in the paws of ants. The ant was fast to the ear, shouting that she had seized the sphere. Rock praised her, and the leader finally realized what was happening. He rushed to stop it, but it was late. Rock approached the Demort, keeping the sphere. She felt a familiar magic, something like that Lydia used. Lydia seems to have used part of Demorta's research data. But now she will be able to handle it. The leader did not calm down. He shouted to immediately return the sphere. Demorta reassured the ear. There is nothing to be afraid. But suddenly the sphere fell out of her hands and fell right on a big rock. A deaf crash came. The sphere began to crack. Demorta did not understand what had happened. The leader cried out and fell on his knees with despair. Demorta tried to reassure him. They say, nothing wrong, there will be another sphere. But at heart, she understood. For him it was the last hope. The boys tied the leader and started interrogation. They learned that his name was Pedro, but it was still unclear why he controlled the fishermen and attacked mermaids. Pedro explained that he just wanted to prove his value. He is from the shark tribe, but was kicked out. He paid attention to fishermen. In their tribe, the power of magic depends on the size of the fin, and it was too small. A few days ago, without nowhere to go, he just sat under the moon. Then a strange woman appeared in black, saleswoman. She said she wanted to help and gave him a magical sphere. Rock suspected it was Lydia. Pedro did not understand everything, but one remembered for sure. Keeping the sphere in the sleeping fishing fisherman, you can become a sea lord. So he began to control them. The mermaids were enraged. Its attacks were ruthless. Pedro confessed that in exchange for the sphere, he was ordered to attack the village of Rusalok, and he had to pass the prisoners to the traitor. Although he was humiliated, he chose selfishness. It was evident that Pedro was sorry, but he had a reason. He sought to prove his significance above all. The mermaids were dissatisfied. Rock wondered, where did those whom he had already passed? Pedro was not sure, but suggested that the captive mermaids were taken to Brandon. Rock lifted the sphere and handed it to Domer. Perhaps it can still be investigated. She cheered the boy. The analysis will take a little time, but it is real. Scylla opposite Pedro, holding the sphere in her hands. She sympathized with the fishery, but explained that such a shaky force will only destroy it. From now on, it must prove its value by its own efforts. And if it really changes, everyone will forget about this broken sphere. After that, the detachment went to Brandon, the port city of Brandon. The boys were looking at the outskirts. Somewhere here, they hid the captive mermaids. Leviathan decided to stay in the sea along with those mermaids who could not reincarnate. It is not necessary to attract attention. Madeline and May could take the human form. But not all mermaids have this skill. They only do it for shopping in the city. Their clothes are fast. After a storm or pirate attacks, the fragments of ships and treasures that can be used are often left at the bottom of the sea. The bird returned. She sat on the shoulder of Rock and reported that she found a secret hiding place. Time to act. She led the group to the target. One thing was surprised. The city was without security. Rock decided to carry out intelligence himself. The girls were left to wait in place. He approached the building. The door was open. The guy decided that the security was just irresponsible. He entered. Strange sounds were heard from everywhere. Looking at, Rock saw many cells with different creatures. Looking at, he noticed that the appearance of some creatures was unnatural. A magical circle was visible on the floor. It was probably a seal for magic. It all indicated that he was in the laboratory of horrific experiments on monsters. He knocked on the glass and shouted that he came to help. The mermaids looked with misunderstanding. The glass was too thick. They heard nothing. Rock climbed into the aquarium and, pulling the knife, tried to open the lid, but it turned out to be useless. The castle was not only mechanical, but also magically protected. And here someone called him from behind. One of the monsters in the cages called the year. He knew where to look for the key. It was Drakel, a descendant of the dragon gods, the grandson of their leader himself. He was grabbed in a dream. Waking up in the cage, he suggested an agreement. If Rock he was released, he would tell where to find the key. It has never been hesitant. Rock agreed, but with the condition. First, it is necessary to release mermaids. He opened the aquarium with a key, reported that he had been sent to San. The mermaids were sincerely thanked, but immediately the question arose, were everyone already released? One of them reported that the queen was taken to the auction. Rock was shocked. This news made it. Він прикрив обличчя рукою, такі заклади мають найвищу охорону, and the mermaids, able to reincarnate, should run away. But unfortunately, there were none among those who could turn into a person. Everyone remained in danger. Then Rock called Gargoyle and Shannon, and as promised, gave Dracula the key. Returning, the dragon asked the boy's name. Rock introduced. Drakel promised to thank in the future. Seeing how it turns out, the fishermen also began to ask for help. But why were they in cages too? It turned out they could not be controlled. Because of this, the pursuers decided to simply hand over them. Rock regretted them and agreed to help, but only if they promised not to attack mermaids no longer. He released the monsters who managed to make contact. After that, everyone gathered again. All you have to do is find the queen. Loki felt her smell, so they followed him. Mermaids also wanted to help save their ruler. Rock and Shannon were surprised when May called the queen with her mother. Despite its appearance, it turned out to be a princess. But regardless of the status, May sought to help. Rock agreed, but he set the condition. She should listen to him. The mermaid has fallen. Such an arrangement is clearly not liked. Then Rock turned to Madeline and asked to prepare gold. In the extreme case, he would have to buy a queen. Lassie led them to a large building. It was there that the aroma of the queen, she was inside. It seems that the queen has not yet got to the auctioneer. Rock decided to first look around. Loki and May had to wait outside. The mermaid wanted to go with him, but remembering the condition, apologized and stayed. Rock promised he will definitely find her mother. May trusted him, asked to take care of the queen. He opened the door and walked inside. There he was met by an exhausted man. He faded greeted, stinking in the room. Rock covered his nose with his hand, greeted and asked about the sale of special monsters. The man, when paddled in the nose, noted that the guy was not simple. Rock scolded, got a few notes and put it on the table. The seller smiled cunningly and covered the money with his hand. Everything is clear. You need to follow him. On the way, he wondered what monsters are interested in Rock. There are different, from humanoid to fused monsters, and he reported the wonderful news. Yesterday they were brought to them an incredibly rare creature. He is convinced that it will interest the guy. Rock guessed it was about the mermaid he was looking for. A man in the hood passed by. Rock stopped and turned his head. From the stranger, something rotten. But it was a chicken girl in her hands. The seller also wrinkled his nose. The smell was very strong. But the seller did not pay much attention to him, and the girl from under the hood compressed something sharp in her hands. She approached the year sharply, looked in his eyes. Her gaze shone. It came from an anxiety energy. Has the mission of penetration failed? The witch asked sharply whether Rock was familiar with Lydia. He replied that no, but she repeated the question. Rock remained solid. She glanced around as if she did not believe. She returned to the door. She felt something like the magic of Lydia, but perhaps it is only imagination. She apologized for the intervention. But with anger, she thundered with the door, going out. Rock asked who it was. The assistant explained. This is a sorcerer, Riza. It works here, creates magical objects, but knows a little. If she knows Lydia, you should be careful. Meanwhile, the assistant opened other doors and invited the Rock inside. In a glass flask with water, he saw the Queen of Mermaids. It was she who was about to sell at auction. It's May's mother, Rock thought. The assistant added that this woman is even more beautiful than the other mermaids that were here. Rock asked the price. The assistant called the crazy 300 million rents. For Rock, it sounded like space. But he explained. Mermaids are capable of battle. It is difficult to catch them. And if it is a queen, the price is quite justified. And even this amount may not help because there is already a buyer. Grizz is the son of the richest merchant in the city. He was used to buying everything he wants, spending millions on the puffs. But then he throws everything like all the women who bought. This type is a real freak. The assistant advised the year to retreat. Like, there will be a lot of mermaids for sale and the price will fall. Then you get cheaper. But Rock does not seem. He plans to participate in the auction. He has what to offer. He pulled the stack of money. The assistant thanked, reported that the auction would take place in 6 days at 6 in the evening. Leaving the building, Rock joined friends who were waiting on the outside. May immediately attacked with questions, worried about her mother. Rock reassured her. Everything is fine with the queen, but in 6 days she will be bidding. May wanted to save her mother immediately, but Rock stopped her. This place is surrounded by powerful protective magic, not to punch it. The guy explained. It is important not only to save the queen, but also to other creatures. And make it a peaceful way. In the meantime, he wants to turn to the guards to discuss illegal slaves. The team saw the guard grabbing a monster. It turned out to be Drake. Rock was surprised. Why was he grabbed again? Drake was angry. The guards closed their eyes to warehouses full of slaves. He even reported on the moons. But they do not believe. Because the semi-human itself. The guards were silent. One of them replied that he did not believe in his version. Like, the composition belongs to the Chad, and he could not do such an abomination. Yes, Chad buys and sells slaves, but it does not make it a bad person. He allegedly created the Center for Distribution and Rehabilitation. Did a lot for the city. But the year became clear. Chad really sells slaves, and it masks it with good deeds. Drake insists on a fair investigation. Otherwise, it is possible that the guards just got a bribe from the child. The guard was angry. He does not like that the semi-human allows himself. The guards boil with anger. They want to force Drakel to regret each word. It becomes clear. They are all related to children. Thanks to Drakel, Rock finally understands the extent of conspiracy. You need to save the drill. Rock wants to discuss with all further actions. He tells his friends about what he learned. It seems that this merchant named Chad holds the whole city in his hands. Do not catch it without evidence. With the participation of the Queen and Grizz, the situation is complicated. It will not be easy to win. A different approach is required. Rock asks everyone to gather more information about children. The team split and went in search of facts. After collecting information, Rock summed up. Chad is the same one they saw before. The enemy is not simple. Nevertheless, most locals praise children as a benefactor. But there were those who hated him fiercely. Someone has accused of abducting women and daughters. Others, in the formation of a personal army from monsters for the capture of the city. If these rumors are true, Grizz is also on the ears in the mud. Someone is clearly great appetites. And indeed, Loki grunts loudly in his stomach. He is hungry. Shannon laughs. She is also tormented by hunger. Apologizes but not standing. Rock smiles and says that he has detained everyone, so it is worth having lunch. The team agrees without objections. When asked what to prepare for dinner, Rock suddenly pays attention to the visa passing by. The stranger draws attention to himself. He noticed in the year a rare gray wolf. His gaze stops at the lacquer. He immediately offers a generous price for him. Rock, without delay, replies that lacquers are not sold. The man is affected by this statement. With a bold smile, throws a pack of money into the air. Rock is stunned. The stranger offers the amount 20 times higher than the market price. But even for crazy money, Rock does not give a friend. The stranger is amazed. That is for the first time. He seems like Grizz, the only son of the richest merchant in the city, Count Fanny. I am sure that Rock must obey his desire. But the guy does not consider the second property. He would never have sold lacquers. Grizz does not seem. I am convinced that you can buy everything in this city. He turns to his servant. He immediately confirms. Everything that Mr. Grizz wants becomes him. Rock and friends are shocked by such a bold statement. But the servant still praises the name of Grizz, considering him invincible. Despite this, Grizz repeats his proposal again, and again gets the refusal. He calls Rock a fool, but suddenly lacquers intervene in the conversation. His anger is felt in the air. He clearly makes it clear that Rock is his master, and even after 1,000 years, Grizz will not have the right to him. His presence begins to press on everyone around. Grizz is impressed with such devotion, offers lacquers the best food so that only he follows him. He even proposes to choose any number and multiply it by 100 and get so much money. How it can withstand the onset of lacquer? A mystery. Rock, with a cold smile, offers Grizz another, tells where he found Loki. But Rock does not stop. He needs money and offers an exchange. If Grizz seeks something at the auction, he must give him the Queen of Mermaids. Grizz is confused. He does not understand where the Rock learned, but does not agree. Mermaids are too valuable for him. In addition, mermaids play an important role in his plans. Rock thinks, what is Grizz in general? And he considers the Rock a pathetic beggar. Even to talk to is a futile business. Yet, Grizz admits, this guy is interesting to him. Not everyone dares to deny the merchant's son. He proposes to talk a little bit and invites with him. They arrive at the luxurious palace. High ceilings walk. Even lacquers would feel spacious in such halls. Grizz is amazed that the common man got here. He boasts a bronze statue for 1 billion, which, in his opinion, perfectly reflects his beauty. White wolves appear in the hallway, which he also failed. Rock recalls, these wolves are now rare. They were massively destroyed because of their beautiful fur. Grizz invites you to go on. They come to the banquet hall. The tables break from food. It's time for dinner. Grizz begins to eat, causing that these guests usually feed on abomination. But Rock's friends have a different opinion. They taste more like Gargoyle's kitchen, and such generous hospitality can be a trap. However, they do not stand. They rush on dishes. Rock tries to restrain them, but the lacquer soothes it. The dish does not smell of poison. It became clear. Grizz is not one of those who work dirty. After all, he can get everything without resorting to the approaches. But the excessive love of the environment has already tired of the year. When everyone was ate, Grizz spoke. Finally, go to the main one. He assured everyone, this room should not worry about eavesdropping. Everything is under control. He proposes to tell the year about his plan with mermaids. Loki, meanwhile, went out to the garden. Grizz proposes to start a conversation. Silence comes. Grizz opens. The lacquer was the boss of the 10th floor in the Dungeon of the Flames of Destruction, located outside the capital. However, Rock is not sure whether there are such creatures. It turns out that Grizz knows this dungeon. It is recommended only for the warriors of Class S. It was surprised to be a Rock. He did not expect that he was so aware. But it is logical. The son of the merchant constantly receives new information from different sources. Rock asks why Grizz the mermaid. He is seriously tuned to use them for trading purposes. According to Grizz, the fishermen soon attacked the city. Chad provided this with its device for predicting disasters. Earlier, this device accurately predicted attacks of white wolves and other troubles. Grizz considers the mermaid a mermaid species. They have a queen, so they are well organized. He wants to train his own underwater army. In his opinion, this will minimize losses for the city. City leaders are already preparing to buy a predictable device from the child if its prophecy is coming together again. But it seems suspicious. Rock finally realizes what the plot is. He explains, Chad secretly sells illegal creatures and conducts experiments with a virus that changes their nature. The Cut heard about it, but there is no evidence. Chad is able to act carefully. Arriving in the city, he handed out food and opened the medical centers, quickly gaining confidence. Many guards are purchased and do nothing without evidence. Grizz complains that traveling slave traffickers behave brazenly even in his city. Rock wants to find evidence. He begins to believe that Grizz is not as they talk about. He is considered a stupid son of a rich, but truth is different. He is very smart. Grizz himself confesses. He is profitable when he is considered a fool. In this case, it is easier for everyone to negotiate. Rock is surprised by this approach, but now he wants to speak seriously. He asks, if Rock finds evidence against Child, can Grizz's support? The Cut agrees to close the topic, but Rock has another condition. He asks him to pass to him the Mermaid King if Grizz wins the auction. Such a proposal is surprised by Grizz. In response, Rock promises to give coaches for underwater fights, at least a few days. After a short pause, Grizz specifies the name of Rock. He acknowledges. This guy attracted his attention. And worthy arrangements. They pressed their hands, so their temporary partnership began. Meanwhile, Rock turns to Domert with a question whether something is known about the sphere. But he says, this time it was not easy. She sacrificed a dream but still figured out. Now he can afford to relax. There's a problem in the sphere. It not only affects the mind, but also absorbs Manu. This is a device for collecting energy. The goal is to resurrect a demon that was once a threat to the whole world. Rock is shocked. Domert has no full picture, but old documents point to something incredibly dangerous. Rock guesses that it is somehow related to Shannon. It was under the influence of this curse. Domert makes everything together. The conclusion can be the same demon. Rock also suspects. But there is still a lack of evidence. Domert warns that this is just an assumption. If it is really the demon from the legends, the world will be on the verge of a disaster after returning it. To prevent this, you need to find the creator of the sphere and stop the Renaissance rite. Rock's suspicions fall on a Cut, the creator of magical instruments, and on the Child. He asks Domert to continue the study to gather even more evidence. Rock himself devotes all the time before the auction of gathering information about children and his dark affairs. On the eve of the auction, a queue was lined up in front of Mr. Chad's cuisine, where hot soup was handed out. People were hopeful. They received a portion of food here every day. Everyone sincerely thanked Mr. Chad. Rock noticed another turn, this time to a free treatment point. People looked happy. They were helped here for free. Suddenly, a boy named Newjude calls a girl to wait for her turn. But she assured that everything was well and asked him not to cry. Her turn came. The guy was still worried, and Lockie confidently stated, the Child holds everyone on his hook. Rock agreed. If Chad was not involved in something dark, he would really look perfect. But suddenly a noise came from the guild board. It has a new order on it. All adventurers should be prepared for a probable attack of fishing for several days. Chad guessed again. Rock agrees with Grizz. Some people are already preparing for battle. Others doubt, but most believe in the prophecy of the Child. Rock still reflected on the prophecy, as he heard a familiar crying. It was the same boy. They came to find out what happened. The boy was agitated because he took Lockie for a huge, scary dog. He was calling for help. Rock drove the lacquer to the garden to not scare the baby, but it did not help. The boy was crying even more. Shannon intervened. She leaned to the boy, talking gently with him. He gradually calmed down. Shannon praised him for his courage and offered cookies. The boy thanked happily for the treats. He was really hungry, but the cause of his tears was completely different. His little sister disappeared. Shannon asks how the girl disappeared. The boy explained. Her sister damaged her leg and went to the healer. He went for food, and when he returned, it was gone. The tent was told that she had left alone, but he could not find her. He added, the sister said that he was no longer a child. Shannon asks if the boy wants to find his sister with the lacquer. He is happy to agree. The lacquers are coming back. He apologizes for his promise without the consent of others. But the guys do not deny. Lockie even jokes that Shannon is ready to become a dog. From now on, it all depends on the lacquer. They rush the roofs, sitting on the lacquer. The boy is amazed. It compares lacquers with the wind, and he heard it blooms from pride. Lockie enjoys praise. Rock pays attention to how well Shannon gets along with children. She tells that she has a younger brother. Rock thanks her for the help. Shannon turns to a boy named Ryan and asks her parents. He replies, they have no parents. Their town was attacked by white wolves. The father and other men were in defense. Shannon apologizes that she made it painful. But Relaine continues. They headed to relatives to the capital. but Nyujua stumbled and injured. Rock notices a strange sign and a boy around his neck. Meanwhile, they arrive at the estate. It turned out to be the residence of Chad. All are embarrassed. Lockie clearly captures the smell of Nyuide, and many more children inside. Rock suggests Chad has used free treatment points to steal orphans. However, they were noticed by security. Friends decide to flee to Grizz to make a plan. In the middle of the night, they arrive at the Grizz sleepy palace. He meets them. They ask him to oversee the cut. He agrees, but wants to hear an explanation. Rock promises to tell everything later, because now something is completely different. Shannon regrets that Raylanda's sister could not be returned, but it does not seem to swear to save. In memory, the moment as Nenua asked the same thing, to take care of her. Rock comes to the house of the sorceress grew up in search of a dolb, but it is not there. The Gru opens the door. Everything came into place. Everything happens as he was told. He asks whether he remembered something about Lydia B. It was interested. Rock confesses that he heard about it by accident, wandering the city. It is rumored it is hiding somewhere on the west coast. It is said that during the invasion of the undead on the capital, Lydia suffered serious injuries or even worse. Growing was convinced that it was Lydia. Rock does not guarantee accuracy, but wants to help, knowing that she is looking for it. Saying goodbye, he asks to pass the doll. Growing is glad that Lydia could survive. Meanwhile, Cancer completed the trap preparation. It remains only to exchange information with Pedro and Mermaid. He is convinced that he will save the Noor, even if you have to look at the danger directly. Meanwhile, Shannon is approaching the house. There are 2 guards at the gate. She asks if Mr. Chad's home. The guards were alert. They did not know who the girl was and what she needed, but they quickly decided that she was just a fan of the child. If insisting, they can let it look inside. They wanted to offer something in exchange, but did not have time. A rock appears behind and faints both. The guy was worried about Shannon, but all is well with her. It quickly grabs the key into one of the guards and inserts into the lock. They did not know what traps were waiting inside, so they went carefully, trying not to make noise. Once in a large inner court, Rock was alert. Somewhere nearby there was a noise. It was a flock of wolf monsters. Red coyotes appeared around all sides. Class B animals, but there were too many. Patra left the garden of the monsters and politely turned to the coyotes, asking to give up the road. She wants to cope with them. They did not respond. Then she lifted a loud cry, and a giant ant appeared behind her back. Coyotes scared and retreated, clearing the guys. Patra thanked the beasts as a real queen of orange ants. She called the year and pointed to the building where the children were kept. Rock thanked, stroked her on his head, and they moved on. They went down the stairs into the basement. Chad was too cunning. The medical center attracted orphans, and in the basement behind the bars sat the children. 5 men praise children. They say to sell children more profitable than to treat. One of them mentioned that even artificial magical beasts cost a lot. He asked the next time to bring one more, but suddenly fell asleep. The others also fell at the table one by one. The most stable lasted the longest, but it fell. They were caught by a flower with hypnotic seal. Rock opened the grate and headed for the children. The children were sitting in a circle, with their knees linked. They looked at the boy and his friends in surprise. Rock asked about their condition, but they were silent. Then he remembered Raelna. They say he asked them to help. One of the girls recognized the name. It was her brother. Rock realized that it was Nude. The rest of the children believed her. If you do not give up, there is always a way out. All the way, Rylan said. Nude has a strong spirit, and her brother is a bit of a sting, but she is raised to be strong. Time is short. Rock gave her the keys, but without them she coped with them. She got the wire and immediately unlocked the shackles. Rock and Patra were amazed. To break the castle for Nude is a lazy duty. She has long been looking for the opportunity to escape, but did not know how to release so many children at once. So she was very happy seeing the rescuers. Rock did not find words. It's time to take the case. The pattern was interested in the evil process. Utah gladly showed all that was necessary to repeat her movements. Patra coped with the task and was incredibly happy. Another step towards a real lady was taken. The children were released, but the boys thought about red coyotes. They still need to decide something. Patrick reassured her, everything will be fine because Patra is nearby. And the Queen City boasted, which could scare everyone with one look. Utah was interested in Patra's ability, and said that she would also be able to do it. Maybe she would be able to look terrible. Rock and Shannon looked at them in surprise. The girls pulled evil portraits on their faces, trying to be scary. The Patrios liked it. The look was perfect. They seemed to become girlfriends quickly. But it is time for boys to find a prediction device and return to Grizz. They brought the children to Grizz and asked him to look after them, saying that among them, Rilana's younger sister. Grizz did not deny. Nuda wondered where her brother. Grizz reported that he had already contacted his relatives in the royal capital and sent it there. He assured that they sincerely thank everything they did. Meanwhile, others came to the ear to talk about the next stage. Everything happened exactly as they predicted. Tomorrow should be fun. These were wonderful news, because they now have a trump card. The next day at 6 in the evening was a crucial moment. Everyone was looking forward to the auction start. The place was crowded. The rich with free time love such sights. Rock decided to clarify in Grizz whether the child would appear on the auction of the Mermaid. He replied that the child always came to agreements exceeding 100 million. So you should not worry. The presenter proclaims the introductory speech. The slave auction begins. The first is exhibited in the cage of a slave, a man from the race of a dragon god. The starting rate is 100 units. Viewers at the tables began to raise. Rock recognized the acquaintance in this dragon. It was a sheet. He asks Grizz to win this rate, promising to return everything later. After all, it was this dragon that saved them from guard. Grizz rates up to 500. The whisper was opened in the hall. Someone else offered the same. But everyone recognized who made such a proposal. There were no other rates. 500 became the final word. Rock thanked Grizz. He thought that 500 was the usual price of a slave, but it turned out to be much lower than the market. Although the race of the demonic god is not in demand because of its complex nature, 500 is still a favorable agreement. And once Grizz was bet, others did not risk competing. They said that Grizz was a rich, so it became clear. The next lot is the Sea Pearl, a mermaid, one of the brightest representatives of its species. It was the queen of mermaids. The initial rate is 50 million. Will it be possible to save her? The bidding began. The rates immediately flew to 56.5 million. Grizz immediately raised up to 100 million. Everyone in the hall recognized him. The bidding did not stop. The amount reached 130 million. Grizz replied 300 million. Anger broke out in the hall. Too much. The presenter asked if anyone would be trading. The 300 million rate remained unsurpassed. Everyone expected Grizz would behave. Like, to compete with a rich son is pointless. Grizz proposed to pay the bill. They approached a friendly man with mustache. A guard was standing nearby. He immediately recognized Grizz. He was Child. He sincerely thanked him for buying a mermaid in his office. Chad passed the contract. He began to sign documents, and Rock watched carefully. Signing the contract, Grizz suggested that the Chad himself invented the story of the attackers in the village of Rusalok. Chad just smiled, taking words as a joke. Grizz added that most slaves they sell are illiterate, and that where the children appear, the orphans disappear, becoming slaves. It is said that in one city he even struck wolves on the Duke. Chad seems to understand nothing. But Grizz remembered. He explored the device of predicting the child. It turned out that he had a magical force to interact with demons. But Chad continues to pretend. He narrowed his eyes, looking suspicious of Grizz. He doesn't like that someone checks his device. It's disrespect. He needs evidence. Grizz casts his gaze on the butler. He understood everything without words, and opened. The door opened, and a familiar girl entered the room. Chad seems to be recognized. She was witness and evidence of his crimes. After abduction from a free medical station, she was kept in the basement with other orphans. Chad was surprised to respond to it. He confidently said that people in the city trust in him, and no one would believe the words of the orphan. But not everything is so simple. Something went wrong. This girl is called Neyu Tolis. She is the daughter of the Duchy family, one of the highest in the nobility. Chad was shocked. As the heir to Louis House, she personally confirms that the Chad stole it and locked it in the basement. Moreover, she intends to tell everyone that it was the Chad of the Stala wolves that destroyed her hometown. For children, it was a blow. He did not expect that someone from the family of Louis survived. He demanded evidence. The Nujuda did not hesitate. She slit her hair and showed tattoos on her back. It was a coat of arms, an undeniable proof of its origin from Louis's house. The rage swept the child. The slave traveler could not know, but among the Dusical families is the tradition of applying the coat of arms to the body using a secret dye. This is a real confirmation. In addition, her older brother is already heading to the capital where Grizz's relatives live. Everyone will soon open the truth, and then who will cause trust? Duke's daughter or ordinary slave trafficker? Chad was stunned. He accepted a call. Grizz advised him to surrender until it is too late. Silence fell for a moment. Then the child laughed. He was indifferent. He raised his hand and the guards behind his back took a fight. Chad is convinced that every security guard in this city is under control. But even so, Grizz dared to come with all these people. He considers Grizz a naive fool. Grizz flicked, wished Chad to a successful bargaining with the other, and with a wave of his hand ordered to move to the exit. The guards prepared for the storm. The city is about to break. Rock guesses where the child goes. Most likely, he wants to get the harbor and escape on the ship. He decides to leave everything in this building on Shannon. Rock calls Grizz. It's time to go. Grizz is surprised. He really is about to leave Shannon himself, but this girl is not frightening. She boldly rushes into battle, attacking enemies with confidence of the predator. Shannon has a skillful sword. The advantage is completely on her side. It will not allow it to be ignored. Anyone who will interfere, she will instantly disarm. The guards are frightened, and friends look at it with respect and delight. Shannon trains with Fenrir himself. It is not just good, it is strong. But Shannon is stunned by the fact that Rock considers her sweet. She laughed nervously that she did not like the guards. It's time to move on. The day comes to the house of that guy. He is surprised that Rock really works with Grizz. The day itself is responsible for the production of goods. He has already prepared 2 slaves he collected. Rock rejoices that Gargoyle is whole. He seems to be guilty of this guy now. Gargoyle should not worry. Rock himself wanted to thank for help. But the dragon has a question. Why does a mermaid cost 300 million and he only 500,000? Does Rock think that the race of the Draken gods is not worth more? Gargoyle is indignant and wants to beat all over. Rock apologizes, little time. He asks Gargoyle to deliver a mermaid back to the sea. The dragon is not mine to help, but he is a little annoying that he has just left. Rock looks around. It approaches the aquarium from where the mermaid jumps. She is just in his hands. He has time to catch her. It is not difficult for him to carry the queen of mermaids. But since he paid Grizz, it is not necessary to call the Rock master. Time to move. But Rock understands. She still made a small agreement with him.